love you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
Well, good morning, everyone. Nice to see you back. I'm glad to be back. I know all of you are here. Yesterday, I was able to listen for a lot of period of time, lots of period of time, portion of the time. And whoa, court canceled today? Did I just see that right? Wayne says court is canceled today? Wow. Well, let's talk before we do that. Then before we get into seeing what's going on and what happened. Does anyone know what happened? Why court is canceled? Does anyone understand what happened here this morning? That would be an interesting development that I'd love to get Michael Bryant on. And then let's see if we can replay some of the things that happened. Yes, unavoidable circumstances, apparently. Wow. Wow. Well, you know, before we get to the unavoidable circumstances, good morning all. I do have a rant that I would like to start with from yesterday. Yes, unavoidable circumstances. We'll see what that is. But let's go into Linda's rant, because after I was able to come back last night and watch what I had watched and listen to some of the things I listened to yesterday, I will say that if Alan Jackson and his team does not file another motion for absolutely this judge showing bias in the courtroom, and you know that I was one who supported her for a long time, it would be outrageous. The ending of Alan Jackson's cross-examination of Yuri Buchanan, where he was trying to make some points. And when you have a recross, it can be a brilliant move. And he was trying to get there. And as he said, one question to Buchanan, which we'll go back and probably replay later today, she said, "That's it, Mr. Jackson." And he looked up and she said, "Well, you said one question." Now, she is doing this in front of the jury, all right? He had a right to take as long as and recross, since she has granted recross, some states don't allow it, as he needed to make his points. And sometimes those are very, very effective. And that's after she had allowed Hank Brennan to do some redirect, to rehabilitate Yuri Buchanan. That was also outrageous. So why don't I just lay out what I was talking about, okay? First of all, to allow Yuri Buchanan to opine upon what a medical examiner should be opined about, that these were injuries, and you know he made this up, okay, from an auto accident. He thought they were from an auto accident right away when he saw the arm of John O'Keefe, was outrageous. Who the hell is he? The man who didn't understand what the word theory is? Really? He's a police officer, okay? You didn't even ask him the predicate questions. How many times have you been to the hospital to see a body that had been hit by a car? That's the predicate question that needed to be asked. It was not asked. And I think Alan Jackson objected appropriately to this. I did watch last night the rant by Peter on lawyer, Peter Tragos. He was on point. This was an outrageous decision on her part without even a predicate question. You do not know how many. You would even ask that of a medical examiner. Well, how many auto accidents have you autopsied? Okay. It's asked all the time when you talk about shotgun wounds or gun wounds of medical examiners, of treating doctors. Here he is a state police officer who was belligerent in the beginning, who was not forthcoming, who did not want to answer questions, right? He was an embarrassment. I think there was several station house adjustments by his superiors that told him to start answering questions. But then I believe that Hank Brennan was the one behind this. That's my feeling. This is because the lawyer in control of the questions will have gone over it in advance, not during cross, how you want to handle some issues and how you want them to answer. And for him to say, after it was documented, and she tried to prevent this from coming in, that he had told that the state police had told the medical examiner, it was initially their theory, that he was hit in the face with a glass, but now that she sees that this was a losing battle, that he's going to say he believed it was an auto accident. And the judge, remember, did not allow the Keith testimony beforehand, that there had been pressure put on the medical examiner. She ruled that that was inappropriate to come in at that time, or maybe at any time. All right. It was simply wrong. It was wrong. It was wrong. It was wrong. And I say that upon saying, on top of the issue of the fact that she tried to demean Alan Jackson in front of that jury at the very end with that question. You said one question. What does that mean? You were misrepresenting things before the jury? Oh, your question, you don't need to get more than one question. I can control that. And she sent a message to Alan Jackson. And he said, well, I'll finish up right away. And I do think he was trying to finish up to keep it within the day, to get Yuri Buchanan off the stand. I do absolutely believe that. But give him some leeway. Give him 10 minutes. Give him 15 minutes. This is a murder trial. This is a trial where there has been some serious issues in the first trial. This is a trial where Judge, that the prosecution and the state police and Canton, but mainly right now the state police, because that's what we're talking about, have misrepresented things to a jury in the first trial. Remember, she's got all of her robes in a tying knot because she thinks Alan Jackson somehow misrepresented whether or not ARCA was independent, because he ended up paying a bill that was set after the first trial ended, okay? And she had all of these Daubert hearings coming in, having Dr. Wolf come in, Dr. Rentschler come in, and having them under severe cross-examination for Daubert hearings, having Dr. Marie Russell come in for the dog bite under Daubert hearings after she'd already testified once. All of that issue about whether they were competent enough to make a medical diagnosis and a medical determination, or a biomechanical diagnosis and a biomechanical determination. And remember, she wouldn't even allow the biomechanical engineer or the anyone from ARCA to say what the cause of death was. Remember that it couldn't be hit by a car. They could well, it couldn't be a car strike, an automobile strike, an SUV strike, because they weren't medical doctors. And you allow this, and then on top of it, you allow yourself to make it clear that you don't like Alan Jackson. Well, we had some issues. I think I told you the story when we were trying Aaron Hernandez, when we had the double homicide and we had the not guilty in the double homicide murder. And we liked the judge there, okay? But a couple times we got into it with him, as you will when you're a defense attorney, because at one time he kind of, Jose Baez, and Ron Sullivan, he kind of demeaned Jose Baez in front of the jury. And Jose Baez, when that jury went out, stood out and said, and actually told the judge, how dare you, Your Honor? You could do anything in front. You could probably go back and find this is on the internet. You can argue and you can yell at me out of the presence of the jury, but never demean me in front of that jury, in front of my client. And you know the judge apologized and told the jury, made an apology to the jury and told the jury that he was wrong. All right. I don't think Judge Beverly Cannoni knows how to do that. And what's amazing to me is she is on the same Harvard Law program. Maybe I won't be invited next year, that Ron Sullivan was on, that he runs, and she was on the third week. I never met her. She was on the judges week. I'm on the lawyers teaching week in the first week. All right. But we've seen this happen in the courtroom in a case that Ron Sullivan was involved in. Right. And this judge should know better. She absolutely should know better. She is a big wig. I can't tell you. She's a big wig in Massachusetts. She headed the criminal discovery committee that changed the rules for discovery. She's probably headed to their top court. It's not called their Supreme Court, but their top court in the state. She is well thought of. But I tell you what, I defended her. I am not defending her on this conduct. I am not defending her on this attitude. How is she allowed when she knows that Yuri Buchanan also, and this is my third point. The first point was the medical, allowing Yuri Buchanan on redirect by Hank Brennan to become the medical expert. The second point was demeaning Alan Jackson in front of the jury a number of times, but certainly on the recross. And the third point is she knows that the state police have lied. They lied. Yuri Buchanan sat on that stand in that first trial. This is where I first noted him, because I remember being a host on Law and Crime and saying, oh my goodness gracious, on Law and Crime, wow, what a great witness. He was terrific on the stand, right? And then when we got to the second day with cross-examination to learn that indeed he sat there and never told those juries that video at the Sally Port was inverted, because the whole issue there was whether Michael Proctor ever was near the right tail light of that SUV when it was in the Sally Port. And he sat there and said, never, never, never. Look at the video. Look at the video. Look at the video from the SUV. Look at that video from the SUV. And then it turns out you looked at the video, but the video was inverted. So Michael Proctor was right there. People were right there near that right tail light. Okay? Then anyone could be right near that real right tail light. And he let that jury believe the other for a whole period of time. So I am really unbelievably upset. I am unbelievably disappointed. And I also think that this defense team never has to make that record. And I would ask that record be publicly on the record, just like she publicly demeaned Alan Jackson. Okay. I mean, if she wants to deny that, but I would ask that be on the record. Let her go to it in front of all of us who are invested in this trial. Why? Because we want to see justice. And we've said here on this channel, look, if the state can prove that Karen Read hit and killed John O'Keefe, so be it. But let them prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So be it. And there may be jurors, the way Hank Brennan is presenting this case, that will take Occam's razor. Well, we see 6 pieces of taillight. She didn't, she was driving drunk, okay? And therefore, we're going to find that she hit and killed him. Not murder, but we'll find that she hit and killed him. So I can see somebody saying that, all right? But I don't think they've proved it. I think it's far from being proven. And I think the judge has her hand right in getting this conviction. And I think it is wrong. The thumb is on the button and the button is being pushed. And Alan Jackson, you and I were adversaries for 6 months. We fought like dogs, all right? We were in a dogfight. You want to put 2 pit bulls in a ring, it was us in the ring in a dogfight. I didn't like some of the things he did. He didn't like some of the things we did. But, we knew we were good lawyers and we respected each other. And I will respect his right to have a fair trial for his client in that courtroom. Okay, that's the end of Linda's rant. As you know, I'm going to start answering some of your questions. We will probably cut that rant and probably put it up on our social media page, both on our X page and our YouTube page later on. But that rant is appropriate. So why don't we go through and let me see if I could see some of your questions, because as I was ranting, it was just I wasn't able to really watch what's happening. I see all of you are coming on. Okay. Unavoidable circumstances, no court today. Well, that kind of sets what we're going to do apart. I wonder if my pod partner, my streaming partner, Michael Bryan, knows that. Somebody I'm sure is going to text him, and we'll have to find out if we see what the unavoidable circumstances was. They're not releasing a reason. Okay, I mean, this could be really interesting. Maybe unavoidable circumstances could be witnesses unavailability. It could be somebody really got sick at the last moment. It could be filing of motions that you don't want to know about. It could be something going on. I see. Michael Bryan, no court, Karen Read court to date. Notice from media relations. Okay, from media relations. Okay, Michael Bryan, I don't know if you are listening here, but we should talk about this just a little bit. So anyhow, let's go through. Good morning, everyone. Well, good morning. All of you are here. LL, Oasis Cat High. Oasis, I know that Missy has the rant. We have, by the way, as you know, rant art. And Oasis is trying to think of a song, but we have rant art. And that's why I announced that it was going to be a rant, so it could be cut. So it was media relations that actually, and Kathy Russell's announcing, but it came from a notice from media relations. Okay. To make an account, good morning, Dr. Uri. Yes, Dr. Uri was allowed to be Dr. Uri because Hank Brennan had planned for him to be Dr. Uri, and the judge was going to allow it. Okay. Him talking about lividity was the funniest thing I've ever heard, in the sense of, but he was very good. It was a very good thing. He was talking about the pressure points. If you lie down on a TV thing and the pressure points, this is the same Uri, by the way. There, by the way, let me read it to you. Here is the media relations notice. Please be advised that the trial in Commonwealth versus Karen Reed is not taking place today due to unavoidable circumstances. Massachusetts State Court spokeswoman Jennifer Donahue wrote in an email. So, yes, that is true. That court is canceled. There you have it. And sometimes somebody could just be really, really sick. I mean, the flu has been going around terribly. And that could also happen. But there could also be some other issues that maybe are going on, okay, that need to be investigated. But yes, he knew lividity. This is the same person who sat in that judge's courtroom before the judge and didn't know what the word theory was and said, if you give me a Merriam's dictionary, I can look it up, okay? And the judge allowed him to talk about lividity. And I have no problem with that. I have no problem with him talking about that. But with him talking about the cause of death, oh, come on. Well, you knew that he didn't know that this was a car strike. You knew because no one had talked about it. And if they had, they were talking to their medical examiner later on. But he had to go see the body so that he could determine what to investigate. Give me an effing break. And that's why the initials WTF are up, by the way, in that rant. All right? Come on. So here you go. Yes, let's see. To make an account of Greenland, the unforeseen circumstances, Bev's clear bias, rescue her or quit Karen. Boy, I'll tell you what. It was, why is she yelling at Alan Jackson? It was wrong. And he kept his cool. And he said, Your Honor, let me finish up. He kept his cool and all. But you know that you really could have done a lot more on the recross with that. On that. But sometimes you got to take and cut your losses. And, the jury probably would have been tired of having Uri come back because they've made up their decision with regard to him. But let Alan Jackson end up after we've had all this and you've allowed Hank Brennan, yes, making account to do things. Wow. To making account says that Bev's issue with AJ is personal. I think it is personal. But I think it's personal on this basis. She got it up her, you know what I'm going to say, that Alan Jackson somehow lied and misrepresented to her with regard to ARCA. That's when we saw this change. But it was with Hank Brennan, recall. Hank Brennan came out and said, oh, Your Honor, Peoples, the defense has failed in their discovery, right? How did they fail? We've got notice from ARCA that indeed that their bill was paid for $30-some thousand after the trial was over. It turns out he didn't get notice from ARCA. The defense provided discovery for the second trial, but he first represented that to the court. So the court said, oh, there's a discovery violation. And then by the time the defense was able to get up and say, no, we provided this, I'll tell you the circumstances, Hank Brennan said, oh, I'm sorry. But the damage was done. And then she never got off that. She didn't listen. She found discovery violations, the second discovery violation with ARCA, before she even brought them in for the hearing. And then after she brought them in for the hearing, let Hank Brennan cross-examine them up one way and down the other, being rude and terrible to them and crossing them like they're some kind of mafioso informant, and he's on the defense, right? She found that there was nothing really to do that they could testify, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So I think it was wrong. And I think all of this was absolutely wrong. Okay. But yet I'm going to tell you again, I'm going to say to you that because she carries such weight up in Massachusetts, there's going to be nothing that is going to be done to her, even if Karen Reed gets convicted and they try to talk about the judge's demeanor. Okay. Paula B., good morning. Does the defense have any recourse? Okay. And is AJ forced by Judge Canoni to be done with his recourse? Yes, that was it. She was forced. To Making It Count. Thank you again to Making It Count. This is thank you. I'm seeing this right now. I'm sorry. I'm so involved right now in what I feel is unfairness, right? So excuse me if I was 30 seconds delayed in answering this. Okay, since when does the defense need to conduct their own investigation into the conglomerate that is charging their client in order to acquit her? Well, obviously the defense needs to do that. Now, let me tell you, as defense attorneys, we do try to conduct our own investigations by getting our own witnesses. In the Aaron Hernandez case, and I only bring that up because it's Massachusetts. It's the next county over. It was in Boston. It was in Suffolk County, not Norfolk County. Okay. There was an issue of Aaron Hernandez spilling a drink at the nightclub. And there was supposedly a witness whose birthday it was who witnessed all this. Well, the state couldn't produce him, they said. We went through all the tapes of everybody coming into that nightclub, all right? And we located who we thought was the person. And then since the state never found him, we were able to find him through some help of the internet and people knowing that we were looking for him, giving us his name. And when we went to speak with him, with a private investigator, he told us the whole story. And it was exculpatory evidence to Aaron Hernandez. And we brought him in. And I know that he was not happy or scared about bringing him because he had seen how the prosecution treated an independent witness, a street sweeper who testified for us. Eventually, the street sweeper had to give up or lost his job, right? So when you go against the state, the government, all right, there can be repercussions for you. And it takes a lot of courage for someone to come forward and say, okay, I will testify as to what I saw, especially when it's exculpatory. So, and you know, by the way, if the prosecution doesn't go out and find a witness, you know the reason why they're not going out and finding the witness, because they know, in my opinion, or have inside information, that witness is not going to be helpful to them. So it is never the defense's duty to go and obviously to prove a case. And even if you, now the danger when you present a case is always the jury thinks therefore that you have a burden to prove it, and you have none. The only time you have a burden to prove anything is when you have what's called an affirmative defense, such as I'm crazy under the law, I'm insane under the law, or let's say you're in a fight and it's self-defense. Then you have an affirmative defense and you have to make a burden of proof. You have to meet a burden of proof. But if you are just poking holes in the prosecution's case by investigating and having alternative theories and alternative suggestions as to what could have happened based on the evidence that's presented, or that the evidence you present before the jury, then you have you don't have that duty, okay? But that has to be made clear. And I think what has to be done is a special charge in this case, whether the judge will grant it or not, a special charge that says, look, the defense has presented theories to you in a case, and they are allowed to do that because they have, the state maintains the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And if anything, the defense has argued to you limits that burden or prevents that burden from being met, you cannot. You must acquit the defendant. You must acquit, okay? I think there has to be, and that's not a very well-crafted special charge that I just did there. I mean, if I were going to write it up, I would write it up differently. But just to give you the idea, all right? So to make it count, you are right on point, Endor. You are absolutely right on point. Let's go to Riz. Oh, charisma. You know that Bob Bianchi has unspoken Riz when he's on the show. That's how he didn't know what Riz meant in slang, just like a lot of you didn't know. I understand, you know, what on the text messages between Higgins and Karen Reed. Sup, S-U-P, what's up? What's up? What's up? You know, just sort for you know, everything is shortened on when you're texting on the internet. Okay, I have a question. Jackson pointed out lividity on the upper inside arm. That would mean John was face down while death. However, girls testified he was face up, brushing stove in the face. I thought they testified they turned him over. Okay, that was my recollection, is that they turned him over and then brushed stove from his face. So we'll have to go back and see whose recollection is right on that. But the lividity could also be, lividity forms pretty quickly, as you know, once you're dead. But they're going to question, and I think he was dead at the scene. I think all those life-saving efforts were because they thought he had hypothermia. They were going to try to warm him up to see whether or not they could bring him back. But I think that he was already gone at the scene and all. So yeah, Jackson was pointing out the lividity, although the lividity was at the elbow. All right, so that would possibly mean the elbow was up. All right, we'll have to see. Obviously, their medical examiner and any medical examiner or forensic pathologist that they've consulted with, or even the trial testimony from the first trial, we'll have to see. I don't remember lividity being mentioned at the first trial when Dr. Scorbella testified. Scorbella testified. Okay. I don't remember hearing that. So obviously there's something that the defense has about how John O'Keefe lay in the cell, dealing with lividity. Okay, so we'll have to listen for that last when we obviously when we have the medical examiners on the scene. Phoebe Purvis, what happened to the missing socks? I don't know. Were they booked in and no one just talked about them? Because they clearly were on him at the hospital, John O'Keefe's socks. I don't know. See, what we don't have, and after you try cases, it drives me crazy that I don't have all the discovery that they have, so I could look at it and see and make some independent evaluations of myself. We don't know if they were actually booked and went to the medical examiner's office in the bag, and there's no one talks about them because they're irrelevant to anything. All right. So that's a possibility. So yeah, we don't know about that and all. Paula B, hopefully no court is in favor of the defense. Well, I wonder if there's been some, yes, I always wonder whether something has come up in terms of some reports about somebody lying or misrepresenting things. Wouldn't that be the best thing that could happen to the defense? That somebody came forward and said that Yuri Buchanan lied on the stand or something like that, and then before they go forward, because it affects the witness testimony and everything else, that has to be investigated. But it could be as simple as and when they say it, I mean, they're not saying because it's, it usually gets out when somebody's sick or whatever. That's not getting out, but it could have been somebody woke up sick. It could have been that the witnesses became unavailable because of some emergent situation. We always have, all of us have things going on in our life that really, shall we say, sometimes make things happen, right? It just makes things happen that you don't know, or things happen that can change the course of somebody's day, and that always happens. Okay. LL says, or if the phone was under him, it should show lividity outlining it. Well, it could, except that he was wearing he was wearing some type of jacket, and so the jacket may be big enough that you don't have that impression. So that would be interesting, though, wouldn't it? Yeah, wouldn't it? Bye. Riz again, and I don't equal on and then equal. Okay, I don't know what I want to know what your handle means. Okay, Riz. Also, lividity with cops testifying they weren't investigating death. He was rushed to hospital. I'm so confused. Well, he was pronounced dead at the hospital. Okay, yeah, I think they thought that he was deceased, but he was pronounced dead at the hospital. They did make that pronouncement. Toy, could they be making arrests and dropping charges? I know it's wishful thinking on my part. No, they're certainly not making arrests. I mean, I doubt they're dropping charges unless there's something really serious that's come up with that has affected the whole trial, that there's somebody who is lying, or maybe there's some evidence that's come out. Certainly you could only hope that the federal government, who clearly is watching this. I don't care. Let's talk about that a little bit. they said the federal government's investigation is no longer going on, right? Okay. We don't know what the parameters of that was. It did involve whether or not, obviously, it had to involve in part whether or not an SUV hit John O'Keefe, Karen Reed's SUV. And clearly the federal government concluded that it didn't, in my opinion. That's why you had their own pathologist that testified in the first trial, who the jury was not told. I must be getting company, right? She knows it's a company coming. The jury was not told that he was actually hired by the FBI. I think this is wrong. I think, when people are hired by the Department of Justice, that shows that they are independent. And that all the court needs to say is they're hired by the Department of Justice. It's you not to speculate on the reason why they were hired or why or anything else, just that they were hired. That's all you say, because it goes to their weight, it goes to their credibility. You don't have the jurors speculated that they're hiring by Karen Reed's insurance company, which means they would be on maybe her side. All right, it just is simply wrong. But yeah, I could only hope that somebody from the state police has reported that Yuri Buchanan lied on the stand. That's my hope, and therefore there's questions about going forward now because of that. Going forward, whether or not he should be called back, or going forward on new witnesses or whatever. But it just may be that a witness is sick, or the rumor had it that Hank Brennan was going to call the children of John O'Keefe because of the media advisory that went out last week. Apparently, the rumor was that he actually wanted to call them on Friday, so he left the jury with their testimony going into the weekend. But that plan didn't pan out because Yuri Buchanan was such a recalcitrant witness. Okay, let me put back up again the media advisory. So those of us who haven't seen it, those of you who haven't seen it, know that this didn't come from other media outlets. Okay, this came from the court itself. Okay, and we are reporting on it just like they are. All right, please be advised that the trial in the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed is not taking place today due to unavoidable circumstances. Massachusetts State Court spokeswoman Jennifer Donahue wrote in an email. Okay, there was no further explanation. All right, Mark Wardell. Yes, Mark Wardell. See, I got it. Top of the morning, Linda, from the afternoon here. Top of the morning to you too, sir. All right, thank you for joining in. Karen McCourt, good morning all. Joanne, Jetta Platypus, that's one of my favorite handles, a Jetta Platypus. Want to say hi to Karen and all. All right. Kimbo Slice knows that this case costs millions and millions of dollars. Yes, millions and millions of dollars, millions and millions of time, lives disrupted. We already have one tragic death, John O'Keefe, no matter how he died. And more importantly, we have those two children who really have lost, first their parents, then they've lost John O'Keefe. And what, I really question, everything about Karen Reed was that she cared for these kids, right? That's why she kind of moved in during COVID with O'Keefe. She ended up being what really, as somebody put it, a babysitter with benefits, right? But they had a relationship before, but she was helping them and she was spoiling them, because the fights that even John O'Keefe's best friend said happened were because she was spoiling the kids too much in his view, and he didn't like them being spoiled. I mean, why not spoil kids who have lost their parents, right? I mean, come on. All right. So everything seemed to be that she cared about the kids. Even if you listen to the text messages between her and Higgins, the reason why she wasn't just rushing out, because she said it's complicated because there's kids involved. Because I think she felt, as he said, that he had taken on the responsibility, yet he wasn't up for it. And recall, even in that text chain, he had been drinking a lot. He was hungover that morning, waking up, and then he was going out drinking that night. And she said he wasn't. She felt that he was such good-hearted, but he wasn't quite able to do the function. And I think she felt a duty to those children. And now what's happened is, as what's happened, they don't like divorces. The kids hate her because they have been told. That indeed that. And I'm going to read this in a second. They've been told that, she killed their father. their new father, the guardian, John. So he stepped in the place of a father, so he became a new father. Okay, Aiden Carney, Dr. Turtleboy, 4-minute person court today is canceled, right? I'm hearing rumors that they're going to be on Zoom at 11, but nothing confirmed. Zoom at 11. That sounds like a possible motion of some sort then? What do you think? Does that sound like a motion of some sort to you? Remember, Aiden Carney has a direct access into Karen Reed. She is his source, as we know. So we'll have to keep, I'm going to put my Twitter up on the Twitter. I keep calling it Twitter X, because I obviously, when you say you posted something, it could be anywhere. When you say you tweeted something, you know where it is. But we'll keep an eye on Aiden's account here, because usually anything that he has said with regard to what is happening is pretty truthful. Okay. It really is kind of interesting, and I wonder what this Zoom is about, if it's unavoidable circumstances, if there's going to be a motion to dismiss, if there's a motion for misconduct. I don't know. I'm just speculating, because this is so unusual. This happened right. It's really unusual to happen. By the way, hold on a second. I noticed my computer is not charging, and I don't want to lose you. So just hold on 1 second as I bend down to look at why it is that my computer, for some reason, is not charging, so I don't lose you. But I can't. There we go. Okay, the plug was not quite in. I just didn't want to lose you all as we're going on. Okay, let's see. Who else we have? LL Tully still at the courthouse. Security and press are still out in front of the court. Okay, so rumors must be floating about, and if press is still there and there's a possible Zoom that they're hearing, we could only hope that something has happened overnight and all. Deborah J says maybe the state is giving up. There'd have to be absolute perjury on the stand that they've been advised of, and that there had for them to give up. Okay. But we know that there was lying on the stand in the first trial. And back to what I said in the rant, that hopefully we'll get to post on our X account before the 11 o'clock hearing, so people pay attention to it, that there was lying in the first trial. And I'm saying it out loud. I mean, Yuri Buchanan, by not indicating that video, the Sallyport video, was inverted, and then the next year of all these videos being rolled out that supposedly didn't exist, right? All right, that goes, I should have put that in my rant, but the judge didn't have any grave concerns about any of that. And I know you're all teed off about that. Now, again, I will say on this channel, we have said, if the state can prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt against Karen Reed that she hit John O'Keefe, and that would probably be on the second count, because the murder count should be dismissed by the state. That there is no evidence she intended in any way to intentionally kill John O'Keefe, despite the state talking about, oh, they were having a fight. I think that's there right now. I think that's thrown in right there. I think it was initially thrown in to try to get a plea agreement. And now it's thrown right in there to try to get the jury, if they get the case, to somehow think this is a sale bazaar, a garage sale, that therefore they can agree to come to some kind of an agreement on that account if they throw away the murder, right? I think that's why the state keeps that in there. Good morning, Mara. Good morning. Yes, good morning, Mara. LL. His vocabulary and demeanor, talking about Yuri Buchanan, changed a lot yesterday morning. But also, did you see the Boston Herald this morning? I have not seen the Boston Herald this morning. What does it say, LL? Let me know. I have not seen it at all. I'd like to know. But yes, I had yesterday morning texted to the team, our great team, that I thought that there had been a station house adjustment of Yuri Buchanan. It didn't last too long because he couldn't control himself after. But initially, in terms of how he answered questions, and when I say station house adjustment, I don't mean Hank Brennan. I mean that somebody from the Massachusetts State Police, who must have gotten involved and said, because they were under incredible attack on social media, on X, including by us, saying, you know, how dare you? I mean, this is embarrassing to you. It's embarrassing to every good police officer. It's embarrassing to every good state trooper. How dare you let him testify like this? How dare you don't intervene? How dare you don't tell him and take control? He's your employee. He under the chain of command, he works for you, okay? He doesn't work for Hank Brennan, okay? But I did think there was a station house adjustment, but again, it didn't last too long. And when the judge allows you to get away with answering the questions the way you answered the questions, you can see why. I figured, well, let me just go back to being the way I was. But he wasn't as bad as he was when he first started with every single thing, including the fact that, you know, he still wouldn't agree that Michael Proctor was the lead investigator. And here was another thing the judge did wrong. Alan Jackson, well, he I think lied. He said he'd never seen any documents relating to Michael Proctor's dismissal from the police, not even the findings. I call bullshit, all right, on that. I say bullshit. You know why he said he never seen it? Because in there, he knew that it said lead investigator, all right? And whatever craft that he and Hank Brennan did to try to get away from Proctor being the lead investigator by calling him the case agent wasn't working out so well, because that's what he was fighting Alan Jackson on when he was first on the stand, right? That's what he's fighting Alan Jackson on when he's first on the stand. But it didn't work so well, did it? Okay? It didn't really work well at all. But he's still sticking to it. Was still sticking to it yesterday. And the way Alan Jackson was trying to then question him on the fact, have you ever seen this, so that he could then move into, there was a lead investigator, the judge turned it down and wouldn't let him go there because he said he didn't see it. Well, I think that if you are, wouldn't you like to know? Shouldn't you have known? Shouldn't you have seen what Michael Proctor did, and so that you could determine whether or not his actions in investigating this case were good? And I want to question him on it, Your Honor. All right, and so let him see it right now. Let him see it right now. He supposedly was in control. He supposedly had to evaluate what Michael Proctor did was good. He was a supervisor. He's this. He's in this like this. I mean, if my fingers could twirl around each other anymore, okay, they would. All right. And I think that was wrong. And I think it was a lie that he didn't know that Lieutenant Noble, Colonel Noble, second in charge of the state police, had found Michael Proctor, that was the lead investigator, when he found him guilty of all the charges and dismissed him, which is a big deal to be dismissed from the state police. Okay. I think that was wrong. Okay. And in my opinion, that was a lie. All right. And in my opinion, even if you didn't see it, you had to know about it. All right. And that, if not, and you want to tell me Hank Brennan didn't prep him by going over that? Oh, come on. All right. Sell me the Brooklyn Bridge. Okay. But you're really not the Brooklyn Bridge. It turns out to be a model of it. Right. I am not that gullible. And I don't know if the jury is that gullible. LL, let me know what the Boston Herald said. Okay. All right. Toy, I just sat there with my jaw wide open, dumbfounded when he discussed that, and she okayed it. Yeah, dumbfounded about the lividity I think you're talking about, and everything else. Not just that, everything else. Okay, yes, LL, that's where I got the quote that I put on the screen. Oh, okay, that's what we're talking about. Great, that's the statement from the press office. To make it count, I'm trying to answer all of your questions here since today we have time. I think Aiden Carn, is Aiden on actually, or is he re-showing? No, so he is re-showing. He's re-showing a pinned something that was pinned. Okay, he hasn't come back on. I don't see anything new on his Twitter account. Let me just check. Let me refresh it as I'm here right now. I don't see anything new about that. Whether it's something that's happening at 11 o'clock. Okay. Making Count is talking with Kimbo here. I'm glad that you're all having these discussions with each other, because I think that is very, very important, because you act like jurors, right? It's clear that's why Karen did a few interviews. What else she can do to monetize and raise funds for defense? I think that, and also, you know, she's able to testify. Now, some would say that it was bad. She should have kept her mouth shut. But, you know, I think that some of the interviews were helpful. Obviously, some of the pieces are not helpful. But what's clear to me is that she is not fearful about talking, right? If you are really guilty, you're not talking to anybody. Your attorney is not having you talk to a soul. All right. But I think that obviously, whenever you're trying to mount a defense against the government, unless you've had some clients like I've had, or you're getting a donation, pro bono work, it is very difficult to mount a defense against the government because they have millions and millions and millions of things going on. So Jenna Rocco, Inner Circle, tweeted that Karen is unwell today. That could be one of the reasons of the unavoidable circumstances. She could be with the flu. She could have caught COVID. She could be sick. We know that she has that colitis type disease that she's had a lot of surgeries for. She indicated that may have been colon cancer. It could have been, you don't really tell tell everything, but obviously there's no doubt about that. So that could have been an unavoidable circumstance. That would be one thing that would definitely put this aside. And if she is not feeling well, we hope she feels obviously better. We don't want anyone to be sick, just like we don't want anyone to be dead. All right. Okay. LL said boots on the ground. Have said that even though they saw the notice, the prosecution still arrived at the court. Well, they're probably going through what they're going to do. And even if she is unwell, they have to put things off and they still have to work on the case and all. So that does not surprise me because that's where their offices are here. Let's see. Let me see what other questions. To make it count. Bev hated AJ in trial 1 as well. I think that trial 2, though, she's showing that she may not have liked him in trial 1, but trial 2, she is in my opinion, she's really showing this demeanor. It's all about the feds coming in and conducting their own investigation. She can't fathom the Commonwealth family has eyes on them. Gotta blame AJ. Yeah, all right. And the thing about it is she knows about the case right next door, Sandra Birchmore. Everybody knows about that case, right? She knows that the feds are there in that case. She knows that they came in and they indicted Matthew Farwell for the alleged homicide of Sandra Birchmore. So she knows all that. She knows the whole system. She's part in there. So, but also remember that in her court, all these cops appear in front of her, right? That's the problem with the judges. They appear in front of her. And yet we know she can be fair because as we know, Joanna Goddess was at a trial that ended just before this one started. And it was a bench trial where she found the woman not guilty of the murder of her former boyfriend, right? Was he her husband, but former partner, whatever. But when you take a bench trial in a murder case, you have one of these from the judge. Wink, 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 wink. You kind of know where that the judge believes the person's not guilty. That's not the situation here. She's not giving anybody a wink, wink, unless it's she's giving a wink. She's not even giving a wink, wink to Hank Brennan. She's basically telling Hank Brennan she doesn't like AJ in court. I have grave concerns. Something's come to me that may be grave concerns. And where I objected to that, as you all know in the past, is that she could have done that in private. She could have done that in private. That could have been on the record. That could have been in her bench, sealed, and not for the rest of the world. Now, she's so big on having sidebars, but with that has to be in front of everybody, her disdain for Alan Jackson with the grave concerns. And that affects how the jury pool would have viewed Karen Reed and also Alan Jackson coming into this trial. That had grave effects. I'll guarantee you that has grave effects no matter what the outcome, especially if the outcome is guilty. And it's trickled down, and it's trickling down, and it's in every single related to every single ruling she makes, right? It is just terrible. It shocks me when the prosecution loses an objection. It's absolutely shocking because it's so few and far between. Okay, boy, I tell you. So yes, no court today. We have the best mods. Yes, we do. We have the best mods at all. It is just awful. Yes, got to blame AJ for everything. Got to blame those out-of-state lawyers. Got to blame those slimy out-of-state lawyers, the ones that don't come from New York, right? I think at one point she even said something to the effect. She says, well, who's lead counsel? And they said they don't define the role. She said, well, Mr. Yannetti is perfectly capable of trying this case himself. All right? Mr. Yannetti, he's local. He's perfectly capable of it, right? Indicating, all the pro hoc vicis that I let in, and she let them in. The only one she didn't let in was Mark Betterow. And she didn't want him in the court because she perceived the conflict between his representation of Aidan Carney and Karen Reed, right? Well, I would suggest to you that maybe there is no conflict there, boy. But, whatever it was, that one she denied. She denied that pro hoc vici, right? Mara said the jury apparently loves him. Well, we'll see. If they love AJ, it's because they think he's doing a good job, and they like what's coming out in cross-examination. Okay, so police outside. Wayne says, court saying there's court today, and Hank is there, and John's family is there. Well, we read the notice from the court officer, right? So if there's court today, it can't be with witnesses. If there's court and it's on Zoom, it has to be with the attorneys on some type of motion. And I think that the family was there because I think the kids were supposed to testify. And quite frankly, if there is court today, the family has a right, even if it's on Zoom, to be listening to it, and maybe it'll occur in the courtroom and all. So if the police are saying that, Wayne, that could be why Aidan Carney is reporting that there is a Zoom at 11. But of course, it goes against their own media officer who said there is no court today. So is there court or is there not court? But whatever it is, I haven't seen anything else from Aidan Carney at this point, and all. And so what the police know and do, who the heck knows? Making it count. No worries, Linda. Love the rants. Well, I think we've got to sometimes liven this up. And one of the things is when I'm in a trial, I can't rant, right? I have to be professional. Not that a ranting is not professional. I think ranting can be very professional. Stand up and take notice of what's wrong. Stand up and take notice of what's simply wrong. I mean, when it's wrong, and put it on the record. And remember, this is me saying what I'm saying, knowing that, I may be in the same teaching set group as her next year. All right. Or maybe I won't be invited. Okay. Disney nerd. Hey, I'm glad you are with us, Disney nerd. All right. Yeah. A lot happening right now. But you'll catch up. Yeah. So boots on the ground are saying, that there is Zoom at 11. So they're assuming the kids are here. So I guess the media officer is going to have to say there may not be court. But see, the kids were, in my opinion, were supposed to testify today because they were up for Friday. That's in the whole Broadway production of a trial where Brennan wanted to leave, the jury was with those kids who, mean Karen, she wouldn't let me have steak tips or whatever it was that they said last time. And I'm not, I worry about that because I think kids can get waylaid and abused instead of just saying what happened. I thought that the most credible witness in this trial was John O'Keefe's best friend. Does anyone doubt a word he said? Right? Because it was, everything. And even when he talked about Karen Reed, he said, right, well, they were arguing because he thought that John O'Keefe thought that she was spoiling the kids. Yes, right. You never heard them, and there was nothing that night, and you understood they were doing okay that night. Yeah, he was honest. Go back and watch him. Honest witness. Okay. All right. Paula B says she doesn't like AJ of the defense team, not because of ARCA, but because they know the truth and are exposing it and her part in the fix. Well, I think that it started with ARCA. All right. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt that she's not in, everything that's going on because she did find a not guilty just before this. And so I'm sure that when things are assigned to her, sometimes the police may not be happy because she was a public defender for like or in defense for 24 years or 26 years, but she just doesn't like. She really thinks Alan Jackson. That's what her grave concerns were, but she had to have a dislike for him to be willing to accept those grave concerns, right? Because look, they tried to get her removed from the case. They went to the Supreme Court on her decisions. Of course, she doesn't like them. Why? Because people sometimes don't like great defense attorneys. They really don't. I mean, we get attacked all the time. And we thought that was changing with the recent not guilties of ASAP Rocky, right? Mara became a YouTube member. Yeah, YouTube member. Thank you so much. That's so great. But going back, we thought that was changing. We saw some change with Doug Weinstein and the YSL team and Brian Steele saying, let's listen to defense attorneys. And you know, so we thought there was some things changing. But obviously not on the benches, not on the benches. That is not changing, okay? Why bring these kids in again? There is simply no reason to bring these kids in again. It's under the guise of the call from the daughter at 5 o'clock. That's what allegedly, but you know, then that's what you talk about. Not you know, Karen and you know, mean old Karen won't let me order what I wanted to order. Okay, all right. So I think it's a tragedy to bring these kids. I don't think they have anything else to offer. The jury has heard the call. I really don't think they have anything else to offer. I think that it's a use and abuse, but you know, they may want to testify, and if they do, you know, this is their father figure, right? He ended up stepping in the stead of the father by being the guardian. So they do have a vested interest in this case, but I think, you know, they should have a vested interest in finding the truth. And you know, in divorce cases, for instance, there can be that whole setting, kids hating one side or another, and it never goes back. It just never goes back to where it was because they think that somebody was done wrong, right? The snowplow guy was great. Yeah, the snowplow guy is an independent witness, and the issue about the snowplow guy is what I told you before, right? It's kind of like in our case in Hernandez. We had the street sweeper guy, and we had the guy at the nightclub that we went and found and put them on, and the state wasn't going to put them on. You know, to talk, because, or they were going to demean them if they put them on. All right. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of independent, and you know, that street is small. And you see the street, and I'm kind of glad. You know, there was some question about why was the jury going to see 34 Fairview before the trial started. I think I'm glad they've seen 34 Fairview, because it's tiny. It's not big. It's not like you can miss things. You notice how it's cracked me up actually. Let me just hold on a second. I just want to see what my streaming partner is telling me here, and that, as you know, is Michael Bryant, who next week will hopefully be going back. I think he said to the. Let's see. Hold on a second. Okay, we've got all that. All right. I know he's listening, Michael Bryant. I know you're listening. Okay. All right. So just so you know, we will though be doing a 6 o'clock to 7:30 show tonight, no matter what. And I'm going to stay on with you a little bit. We may take a little bit of a rest break and see if at 11 o'clock there is that Zoom that goes on and come back on. But let's go through all of your questions first, because we have almost 300 of you here who are talking, and I do want to keep speaking with you. To make it count, had the prosecution done half the investigation the defense had done. I'm so proud of the defense. Yeah, that's it's good that all of you feel that the defense is really working hard, and apparently, you know, a lot of them are doing this. I mean, this has been almost a whole year. She's had these defense attorneys in court almost every single day for like months beforehand. They have to be exhausted. All right, absolutely exhausted. Okay. Just exhausted on what they're saying. You know, Hank Brennan has a whole group behind him. The defense is there. What you see is what you get. They have to have their exhibits ready. They have to be on target. They have to be ready to meet all this new testimony. Okay, It's just I'm so glad that you have some regard for defense. I was a prosecutor, and I'm a defense attorney now, obviously, but I have regard for defense attorneys. I have great regard for public defenders who do really God's work representing people, and most of them end up pleading guilty. Sometimes they plead guilty because you just can't fight the system. But boy, I tell you what, it's a thankless job when you get attacked online. I was attacked by somebody for posting my interview that I did with one of the news media outlets that was reposted on Yahoo News about how I felt about Yuri's testimony the other day. And somebody came at me and said, "Oh, I just want attention. I'm an attention grabber." Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Person who attacked me, Google should be your friend. I mean, I've tried a few cases that have been in the news. I don't go out and seek it, which is why, maybe I don't have a product line. Now we have merch on JSTV, but you don't see a Linda Kenny Button product line. And haven't seen me writing books about my cases and all. There was a play, a drama screenplay written for TV. By David Mamet, but I didn't go out and seek that. So wake up, people who like to just attack, right? But I will obviously defend her First Amendment right to attack me, as stupid as she was. Come at me, stupid as she was. Okay, all right. So there you go. A little bit of a rant on my part. Disney nerd only have today and tomorrow off from work. Having to go back Thursday, so I need them to get their crap together and I'll miss any days. Well, let's see what happens today on this 11 o'clock hearing. Let's see why. Maybe since the kids are there, maybe they'll tape them. Maybe they'll tape them and then play their testimony for the jury instead of bringing them back another day. But the problem with that is Karen Reed has a right to be there. But I can see this judge saying, well, if you're sick, so what? You can still be on Zoom and watch, right? I can see that, right? Wouldn't that be a novel thing? Sick as a dog and not feeling well, unable to get to court, but okay, we're going to Zoom it and you can watch it on Zoom or something to that effect. But then you have to have, and that would be a tape, right? That would have to be a tape and then you play it before the jury. If that's what they're going to do. If they're there, if the kids are going to testify today, and she's going to make a Zoom hearing is going to be on testimony, then it's to capture it and replay it for the jury, where the parties have had the ability to make questions, cross-examination, direct and redirect. Okay. Mara wants the jury to hate Karen. Hank Brennan's whole way of trying this case has been to set this jury who hate Karen right off the bat. Remember, you don't even have a cause of death yet. They don't even know what John O'Keefe died from, except from Dr. Uri, the new forensic pathologist, who must be board certified and everything relating to car accidents and causes of death and manners of death, right? They don't have an effective cause of death yet. But what they do have is, a very scattered way of presentation. But the scattered way of presentation is only directed at one thing, to make the jury, I agree with you, hate Karen Reed and think Occam's razor. Again, she was drunk. She was driving drunk, certainly impaired by alcohol. If you don't want to say it was really drunk. And she went into him, and then there are 6 pieces there, even if what's his face planted the other thing, and no one saw him go into the house, even though we know from the first trial that Higgins testified, who apparently is not going to be called by the prosecution, that he saw a 6'2" man inside the house. And so here's the problem now you have with that. Higgins could take the Fifth Amendment. What? He threw his phone away, whether or not he testified in the first trial or not. Now, if the state subpoenas, if the defense subpoenas him, and he refuses to come on the basis of Fifth Amendment privilege, then he is unavailable. And then I think the defense can make an argument to play his testimony from the first trial. That's something that they're going to have to consider. But if they call him on their case, right, Higgins, to get in the fact that somebody 6'2" entered the house, then the prosecution he's a friendly witness for them on cross-examination. There's always a danger in that, because you don't become a hostile witness just because your viewpoint is adverse to the other side. You become a hostile witness if you do like what Yuri Buchanan did the first day, which is like, be argumentative, be this, be that. All right, then you can be hostile. But if you sit there and you answer questions, even if they're like, no, yes, no, that's not true, whatever, and you're not giving what the defense knows is the truth, you're not hostile. You're not hostile to them. All right, so that's a problem that they have to consider. The prosecution is not calling Brian Albert. I'm not sure that hurts the defense, okay? Because then the defense can say, you didn't hear from Brian Albert. They didn't call him, right? No. Knowing that they gave away the dog, but because that testimony has come in. But I do think they need Higgins' testimony with regard to the 6'2" dark-haired man entering the house, okay? And all. So, but we'll see. So, let's see what else that we have. All of you are on here. Let's see what other questions we have. Let's see. I'm going to go to my start questions. I answered that. Okay. Let's see. Here's Mark. Let me go back. If there is a Zoom, will it be public? Well, very interesting that you say that, because if it's the kids, probably not. Because the judge has ordered that the children not be taped or recorded in any way. So there could be, and that would make a lot of sense then, that we have the statement from the court office, media officer, that there's no court today. But it could be that you do have the court in session to tape the kids and have the defense do the prosecution present the kids. I don't even know if the defense did any cross-examination last time. I don't remember of the kids. But that even though Karen's sick, she can listen to the children's testimony, and therefore she is participating in her defense. So I could see the court doing that, right? Because why not have somebody who's really sick and maybe in bed listening to the kids testify, especially since the media can't tape it anyhow. So that's really that's interesting. That probably, if that's the case, then there's nothing for us to show to you today. Making account lets the witness have gone to conceal John's untimely death is just wild. Well, I'm going to tell you what. You see what happens if you're indicted for murder or homicide. Wow. Tully is there. Yes, we heard Tully is there. Let's see. LL, that's all the information that they have. They're going to wait around and find out and possibly go to Turtle Boy's hearing. That's true too, because there's other hearings that occur, and why the media could be waiting around. The media also could be waiting around because they're there. I mean, one of the best things to do if you have a case is to do things when you know the media has left. So I always talk about that. Okay. Scott McGinnis ran into Tully while walking out of the registry of deeds. Okay. So there we go. Let's see. Shazza B, the socks were specifically noted on the medical examiner's report. So then they're there, and sometimes you have a piece of evidence that it's just, I mention it because it doesn't mean anything. All right. So unless it means anything. So at least they were there. And all, they're just not showing them, they're not marking them into evidence. The medical examiner could have said at the first hearing, at the first hearing that they received them, but they may be irrelevant for everybody's particular viewpoint here. Although I guess you could look at the socks to see whether or not there's anything on the bottom of them. Probably not. I wouldn't probably not find it. Turtle Boy's hearing is at 2. So, remember, there's a question of whether some of his hearings, I don't know if his hearing is going to be televised or not either. Okay. To making account couple with Bev, that's Judge Cannoni, not allowing Karen on the earpiece of all things or portable microphones, but replaces all the big screens in the room. Yeah. I think they were more concerned about they didn't have a setup that they could be sure that the microphones would not be intercepted by the media. I don't know what this courtroom did during COVID. as we saw when the case against the killer of George Floyd was tried. Everybody had microphones because dealing with issue and on, so that you didn't, transmit any COVID at that point. Okay, all right. Donnie, Donnie. Good morning. This case is stressful. Yes, to especially to the participants, right? To make it count. Having less in defense gives me hope. He cites Bev's indiscretions to a regulator. He's always ready and prepared. She's been awful. I think you meant to say, not he's been awful. All right, at the bottom of that. Yeah, he's always prepared, Leslie, with the case law. Leslie has been awfully quiet the last few days. Makes you wonder if he's been drafting the pink slip. No, it's just look, when Alan Jackson is taking the stage, Alan Jackson is taking the stage. I mean, it says something to that jury when Alan Jackson gets up and does the cross-examination. It says, listen here, okay, and all. And the reason why it says something, it's not like, when I try cases and we kind of give out each other, like, I'm the forensic attorney, somebody else is this, someone's that. And people pay attention to different things. But, when Alan Jackson gets up, even on what seems to be a small witness or something that they want the jury to really pay attention to. ARCA is my kryptonite. There are lots of breadcrumbs showing FBI are involved and that this is a second trial. Be interesting to see here. That video we saw yesterday of allegedly Higgins going back, that video that was kind of concealed for a while, but going back, and he clearly came out holding something from an office, and he said he went there to move cars, but he didn't move cars. He got in cars. So what the heck was he taking? Because we know Higgins has later on got rid of his phone when he knew the order to keep it was coming down, got rid of his SIM card, and went to an Army base where the state would have no jurisdiction to go in and get it to do that. I find that was something that Judge Cannoni should have been concerned about. You have witnesses admitting to getting rid of evidence. Now, if you or I had done that, let's assume Karen Reed had done that, she'd have counts indicted for obstruction of justice, okay? Or tampering with evidence. And yet they are scot-free. I say that. I just think it's just awful. I think it's awful how she has just focused on Alan Jackson and not all the other terrible things that the witnesses for the prosecution have been involved in. Riz having the words to attract or charm. My mom was British. I'm Canadian from Montreal. We use this word. Oh, good. I love it. I love that word. They said a great story. Bob Bianchi didn't know what it means, and he had to ask his younger person on his team to go and deal with it, and said, "What does that mean? Was that good or was that bad?" Okay, was that bad? To making a count. Hank, leave those children alone or do quiet deposition and leave them be. Stop dragging them to the stand to relive the death again. Well, that's what the prosecution is doing. Masters of criminology, that did not make sense. I'm not sure what we're talking about there, but let us know further. ARCA, Discworld Edge Witch. ARCA is my kryptonite. The Birchmore case is still open, so I'm willing to bet money that the feds are still watching. Yeah. As you know, as I said, my husband was a forensic pathologist hired by the civil attorneys, who's the one who first said that this was no suicide, that this was a homicide. And that kind of broke everything wide open. I think my husband, to me, as most of you said, is a hero on that case. And I will say it to you publicly. I think he was a hero on that case. Knew what he was doing. And then the feds brought a forensic pathologist in, or not a forensic pathologist, their own pathologist in, who deals with suicide versus homicide, to confirm that this was not a suicide. But interestingly enough, the medical examiner won't move on the case to call it a homicide. They're consistent. They won't move under pressure from anybody. They won't move under this case, and they won't move under Birchmore. But yes, Matthew Farwell has been indicted by the feds. Feds don't have an actual, murder statute per se, but it's the murder of a witness, because she's a witness to the underage issues of grooming, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, I think the feds are still watching. Not only I think they're still watching, Farwell supposedly was having a hearing, I think in April, that it got moved to May. Then it is now moved to July. To me, that tells me that there's still an investigation. To me, that tells me that perhaps we have a little cooperation going on. We shall see when we get to July, but there's no doubt the feds are watching this. Look, the feds were watching the testimony of Arca in the first trial, right? Because they talked to the Arca witnesses. And I think when the Judge Canoni heard that, she was shocked. And that's why she had to let them testify. And the reason why they were also watching is because I guess Dr. Wolf testified that his family and he were under great intimidation and great attack, right? Excuse me, I just take a sip of my Dunkin'. And, if you attack a federal witness, that could be a crime. Now, the kind of crimes that the Commonwealth keeps indicting Aidan Carney for, which is bullshit, crime, which is absolute bullshit. I mean, just real bullshit, okay? All right? And whether you like Aidan or not, though his charges are bullshit. I'm going to say it again, and that's a legal term, bullshit, all right? Especially since apparently the state police, I didn't know this, Yuri Buchanan, a great defender of the First Amendment. Michael Proctor had a First Amendment right to say everything he said about Karen Reed. Wow, what a great defenders of First Amendment the Massachusetts State Police and the Commonwealth are. Unfortunately, they only believe it for themselves, apparently. Okay? Wow. All right. LL says Hank makes me sick. I will say again, though, he is a very good attorney, and don't underestimate him, because he was hired to put this case in a different perspective, right? He was hired to change the trajectory of how the jury felt about the case, and he did, and he's done that. Done it very well, done it very effectively. You may not like him, but you can imagine that he wasn't picked to hire to represent for 8 years Whitey Bulger because he was a pushover. He was represented to represent Whitey Bulger, which he did for 8 years, because he's one tough, good cookie, all right? Whether you like him or not, he's done what he wanted to do. Okay. I think tonight, by the way, just so you know, we'll see whether we can report later on the Zoom, which allegedly is taking place. But if it's the kids, it's not going to be televised, right? Because the kids are there. And we're going to run some of Higgins' prior trial. And we have also reached out to Erica about the buffer zone incident. Now, let's talk about that. As you know about the buffer zone, as Mark Randazzo, the attorney for Michael Bryant, my partner, likes to talk about. He has taken 3 cases, and I don't know. I think I saw that he may have taken this case too. You'll have to let me know, all of you who are watching it, because last night I was involved in going to a function. Well, I'll talk about it and put it on my social media, personal social media later. And yesterday I was dealing with other issues on a matter. So Michael Bryant was nice enough, and Afi was nice enough to come in and sub for me last night. And all of you I know gave her a big hand for being a substitute co-host. But we want to run some of this testimony from Dr. Yuri again tonight, and we want to comment on it, having the day to now reflect even more upon it, and having my rant. And if there is a Turtle Boy hearing, obviously we want to comment on that. And I don't know if it's going to be streamed, and if it is going to be streamed, I know Michael Bryant will be certainly paying attention to that. And if he's not paying attention to it, Michael Bryant, you're going to be paying attention to it 2:00 today. And so we are going to do 6 to 7:30 tonight on our show, no matter what. Okay, just so you all know. Okay. Let's see what some of your other questions. To making it count. Karen has experienced such loss with John and the niece and nephew turned against. John dead and niece and nephew turned against her. She lost 3 people. Yeah, I agree with you. You know, everyone's pain is different. The children's pain is one pain. Karen Reed's pain is one pain. John O'Keefe's death is another pain. The family's pain, no matter whether you like them or dislike them, everybody has pain in this case. When somebody dies, as we all know, whether it be a murder, a homicide, non-murder, whatever, everybody living has pain, right? That's how, and then we have to all deal with it, okay? All right, Lacey Ann, the family wants that guilty verdict for the easy civil win to let them destroy the kids for money. Gross. Yeah. I don't know how much Karen has. She had to sell her house, as you know. You saw that it was in, I think it was in Braintree. Is that right? And I'm sure that she's tapped out. And of course, if she's found guilty, she can make no money from her case. Okay. All right. Let's read the N. Carney. This is said that we're watching him. What we reported, what the court media officer reported. No court today. Rumors about a Zoom. Nothing confirmed. Okay, but if it is a Zoom and the kids are there, it's because of that, and it won't be shown. Okay, Hank is hiding exculpatory evidence, not showing the autopsy photos. Well, the autopsy photos are going to have to be shown. I had no problem with really very few of them being shown to the jury. I think the defense will show the important ones from their forensic pathologists when she gets on the stand, and from Dr. Scortibello when she gets on the stand, and may have to show some of them for Dr. Who is the doctor's name from? I call him the gamma ray surgeon guy. That's how I just nicknamed him. Gamma ray surgeon, doctor from Florida that you had to go out and hire to try to get around your own forensic pathologist, forensic neuropathologist, FBI pathologist testimony that the injuries on John O'Keefe are not consistent with an SUV strike, but they are consistent with the arms, consistent with dog wounds, dog bites, dog scratches, and all. You know, you almost didn't even need an expert to see that, right? When you look at that arm, you know that that's not those pieces coming off and somehow linearly striking in patterns, you know, like John O'Keefe. I mean, you just know that, okay? 924, I totally saw the courthouse security and pressure still up front. Yep, yeah. To make an account, Karen strikes me as a woman who is strong and never wanted kids, but she fell in love with them and it hurts, thinks she may never have them again. And she also had some severe medical problems. Now, Joey Kane. Joey, oh my gosh, thank you so much. You know, gifted, let me just go through these and I'll tell you about Joey some more. 1 JSTV membership. Joey Kane gifted 1 JSTV membership. Joey Kane gifted another. I mean, this is fabulous to gift these memberships. Joey Kane, 3 of them. Thank you so very much. And Joey has been so great. Joey has made up Mr. Wiffle Ball. You know, if you haven't seen the graphic, we posted it, and we're working on some other ones. You know, I call the 2 initial EMT people fluffernutters, Natal and Flementi fluffernutters, because, you know, now everyone's adopting the I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Even heard Yuri. You know, initially Yuri said, well, we had the statements. Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? All right. Okay. Fine. We have those statements. That's not an admission. That's wondering what's going on here, especially since we learned that she said that because she said that Jennifer McCabe, and this is a little nut that you had to go look for, said to her that John never came into the house. John never came into the house. And then she's wondering, because John never came in the house, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? But it turns out that may have been a lie. It turns out that was a lie, because the phone taking the steps puts him in the house. And the prosecution, the Commonwealth, hid the phone expert's original graphic that's showing that the phone is in the house. So those white circles, remember that? You know, I hope the jury gets the input of the hiding, because the input of the hiding is very serious. Let's see, what else do we have? Mara totally orchestrated everything. We'll see. I think there may be him, maybe some other people. I don't know who's orchestrating any at this point. But you know, you know, you don't need people to sit down and agree to know what they're going to do. Okay. So Brooklyn says the kid should only be allowed to testify if Karen is convicted and make a victim impact statement, not before. You could argue that the young woman, the young lady, has some information because she's the one who was screaming on the phone call, and Karen's calling to try to, get Jen McCabe, blah blah blah. So that could be allowed. But yeah, I think to talk about what she's doesn't let them order at a restaurant is quite frankly ridiculous. It's just there to taint the jury, turn the jury against them, right? So, gosh, yeah. Lacey Ann, Judge Cannoni's self-saying you couldn't tell if Higgins was on the phone, in denial. Yeah, I mean, the witness admitted, even Yuri admitted that Higgins was on the phone. So I don't know what her problem was with regard to that. Paula B, I learned that Aiden is the only trusted media source for this case. Well, I hope we're pretty trusted too, Paula B. Now, the problem is that we're on the second tier. Aiden, as we know, has a direct line in. Karen is his source. I mean, no doubt about it. And he's entitled to it. Aiden was the one who broke the story. Without Aiden Carney, there would be no story. Even the people who hate him wouldn't be able to sit here with their hate without Aiden Carney, and they hate him. We had Aiden on a show. You can go listen to the interview. He was very respectful to us. We were very impressed with him. Now, you may not like some of the words he used, some of the things he says. Sure, we don't all have to adopt everyone's word. You know that there's one word that I really hate, and yet there's a number of people that use it. And that happens to be the C word, talking about women. I really despise that. To me, that's right up there, But I'll give them the First Amendment right to say that because I believe in the First Amendment, and they have a right to say it. And just like the F word, when you say the F word, and we all know what I'm talking about, all right? And I've said it on this sometimes, and I've on here, and I've said it's a technical legal term. There was a philosopher who wrote that the F word says something. It has a meaning that no other word can mean. When you say that, it conveys something. Well, I think the C word does too. So I hate it. I don't like it. I don't condone the use of it. I tell everyone, though, they have a First Amendment right to say it, just like they have a right to say the F word. There was a comedian, Lenny Bruce. HBO kind of had him in one of their shows and did a show on him. If not, Google him. He was a comedian that stood up and did comedy and ended up dying. And the Archdiocese here in New York City, along with the prosecutor in New York City, kept arresting him, wanting to arrest him, because they said his comedy routine where he used the F word was illegal, improper, right? It was awful. And they went after him and went after him. Eventually, he died of a drug overdose. But I mean, come on. So I'm a first believer in the F word because no one should go after somebody like that, especially comedians and all, because they use the F word for whatever say. If you don't like it, fine. I don't like a lot of things that people say, but I'm going to defend their right to say it. And the more repulsive that is, the more I'm going to have to defend their right to say it. Now, talking about that, that's why Michael Bryant made a decision as our JSTV correspondent to file a lawsuit against the Commonwealth. And he was one of the first 3 suits filed, as you know, for the buffer zone. The first one, which was the people standing there holding a sign that just said, Beverly Cannoni is something, or they were protesting Cannoni, didn't say anything, were quiet in the buffer zone, right? And they were a buffer zone. They were told they couldn't do that. So then they were attacked by the police. I mean, attacked in terms of they couldn't do it. Michael Bryant was walking with Tom CPU Tom. I happened to be on the air that day. We've played this. You can go find it. We recorded this because I was on the air. And he's told by the state police, say, we've been watching you walk here by here 5 times. Don't do it again. Don't do it again. Okay. He's recording. He's gathering news, right? And then and Tom CPU, and Michael Bryant, because I think he filed suit and has other press passes and all, has been allowed in the buffer zone since. All right. But I think it's only because he's filed suit. I don't think that solves the issue about whether or not we're entitled to go into that buffer zone. But we filed that suit. We took the big boy pants steps and the big girl pants steps and filed that suit. All right. And then the third guy was Mr. Delgado, who had that thing ripped from him, the sticker ripped off his clothes, and unconsented to touching by the state police. And now whether the new suit, I think is outrageous. That was it's the microdots, and I'd love to get Richie on the show. The microdots sweatshirt about Norfolk and the criminality running Norfolk, right? Okay. Lizzie, that's a hint. Lizzie, that's a hint. I'd like to see if Richie will come on to talk about the sweatshirt, especially if Eliza comes on. Right. It's modeled after, if you look at it, they talked about this morning from a designer who has something like that on the back of a red sweatshirt, Superior, right? Big designer. It didn't say anything. It didn't even say anything about Karen Reed. And that said nothing. And then she was wearing an Aidan Carney t-shirt underneath. And they made her conduct an interview taking off her shirt and her bra in a police car. It's simply outrageous. It's wrong. And while they may have learned a little bit and not going after Michael Bryan as much, it's these lawsuits are now going to be 4, because I'm going to tell you that's 4. I once had a woman who was strip searched, okay, for that, and we ended up getting her, not for a buffer zone, but we ended up getting her a lot of money on a civil case. Lots of money way back when, all right? It's outrageous, 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 all right? Simply outrageous. And these were the sweatshirts, I think the Microdot sweatshirts. You know Microdots, they do these great, fabulous videos. They're mostly on Karen Reed's side. But they tell you what the prosecution, and the reason why is because they tell you what the prosecution didn't put in their like little videos they show the jury, why they're trying to hide evidence. And Richie, we thank him. He's been allowed us to use it, and he's given us permission to use anything we want to use. And boy, I really like to talk to him about that. And I want to go buy now the shirt because I want to support them. But you know me and merch, okay? Me and merch. I have merch everywhere from our store. Oh, let me do this little plug. I'm actually going to have to open. I'm going to do this. Oh my goodness gracious. I'm actually going to have to open. I've ordered so much merch. I'm going to have to get it all together and do an opening, for all the merch from the store that I bought. I think I may be our biggest customer. I mean, I'm buying merch like every day. I mean, because it's so great. The yoga pants and the cups and the mugs, and we just added hoodies. Well, how did I get on talking? Because you know me. You know that shopping is a pastime. Shopping is a pastime. Mara, John, and Karen had apparently dated when they were younger. Yes, apparently that's the situation. That's he reached out to her during COVID, and there you have it. Sometimes when you do something nice for somebody, this ends up being it's this. Justice served, in my opinion. Yeah, hopefully justice is served by you coming here and watching us and thinking that we are also somebody that can give you the straight scoop, because we tell you the straight scoop. I'm a practicing lawyer, and maybe people don't like it, especially if I have to go into Massachusetts again. That I'm calling Judge Cannoni out. I was defending her. But I told you I'd stop defending her when I saw bias, and I see bias, right? And quite frankly, I'm the last person who should be defending Alan Jackson. I fought against him, right, Inspector. But I'm defending him because he's a good lawyer. He's a tough opponent, all right? He made me work my tail off, all right? And I made him work his tail off. And instead of being angry about it, I am pleasantly happy that we have lawyers that make you want to watch trials, because we work hard defending our files. Good morning, Debbie Pelham. Good morning, peeps. Yes, thank you for joining us. Sassy C, I wish the feds would shut this down. Okay. Yeah, the Commonwealth's not going to drop it in too deep. I agree with you, Paul. Let's see, you're trying to go through what you have. Loop, justice served, in my opinion, would be Karen Reed free of this injustice and the judge fired publicly. The judge is never getting fired, okay? This is not happening. I'll tell you right now. Karen Reed being free, Commonwealth is going to go after her, and she's going to, if she does get free, she has to move out of Massachusetts. But, think about this. She had a job. She's teaching at a college. She can't do that anymore. It's going to be like, she's going to be like opening an abortion clinic, right? Everyone's going to come after her, right? Until they eventually like her. So Disease says exactly what I already highlighted in that comment. Yep. Masters of Criminology, I think maybe there's a motion to move to allow the Aruba trip or dismissal. No, they're going to bring in the Aruba. I think Hank is bringing in the Aruba sisters now because he wasn't doing it. AJ purposely opened the door. I don't think they're scared of that. I really don't think they're scared of that because I don't think that, I mean, yes, is she upset? That's why probably she reached out to Higgins. She knew, John, that this was going nowhere. And yet she was still taking care of his kids and didn't want to leave because of the kids. And for that, somehow this is being transported into, well, she's terrible. I actually was very interesting to me when that whole day we heard, within 2 days, we heard all of the messages. We heard the messages that leading up to her picking up John and going with him to the bar because he wanted to have a ride. He came to her house because he wanted a ride. And she was at her house. She wasn't there. She wasn't going out. She was going out to get herself a drink, but he was clearly ghosting her, right? And he was ghosting her. And look, anyone who's ever been in that position, my friends who have dated and all, people start ghosting. You just want an answer, right? And she's with his kids. And, basically she was supposed to go home and take care of his kids while he was out drinking, and she got pissed and all. So, it really was, I read that and I didn't think there was anything wrong, and they kind of had made up whatever it is they'd made up. There was no animosity. And then when I saw the text with Higgins and all, it's clear she's exploring things. He's exploring things. No one was married, obviously whatever it was didn't go well when they did have a meetup, right? But there was something that I do want to mention, and I think this is important. In the text that she was having with John O'Keefe the day that she, took him over to 34 Fairview. Remember, there's a comment. She couldn't get over there right away. When are you coming? When are you coming? When are you coming? She was waiting for the plumber. And there's a text, and I have to go back and find the specific text. I think I screenshotted it, where O'Keefe says something too. Were you waiting for the plumber? Is he hot too, or is he hot, or something like that? He uses the word "is he hot." I thought he uses the word "is he hot too," something like that, because in the text with Higgins, remember there's the text about "I think you're hot," and I want to get those two texts and compare them side by side. Because to me, that sounds like John O'Keefe knew about the text with Higgins, right? Whatever it was, whether he saw her phone or he knew about the text. Because it's the use of the word "is he hot" and all in the text about the plumber that follows the text where, she was having texting with Higgins. And that to me tells that he knew about this, all right? And that maybe, there's a lot more to this than the Commonwealth will lead you to believe. And so you guys can all do that too. I mean, since you're watching this, go back and see if you can find the text chain. And it's all, the text chains actually, I think I put did I put a link to them? The first trial, you can find them too, the same text chain. And you can find the whole text chain with Higgins and all, and find both the Higgins one about "I think you're hot," and and find the one with the conversation, the text chain with John O'Keefe and Karen Reed, where O'Keefe talks about the plumber being hot, not in a good way. All right, and let's see if we can put them together in some type of graphic and talk about them on our show tonight, because it was, to me, that was like, oh, I get that. I kind of get that. And I see now what's happening. I see that he knew. I see that he was upset whether or not he was planning to have a relationship with her or not, whether he was screwing around on her or not. I see that he was upset. But the one thing Karen Reed was upset about is that she did say John O'Keefe never came home that night. And he always came home, no matter what. He always came home. Okay? Could the feds be in the judges' chambers? I tend to doubt that. I think if the feds were there, we kind of would know about that right now. Mara says that Judge Canoni should have recused herself. I think that's because of the fact that her brother represented one of the Alberts way back when, right? In a criminal case, end all. And I think that's why I think there was some issue of appearance of conflict, appearance of impropriety, right? All right. I think this Disney nerd talking about what I'm talking about, which is the Sally Port and actually the finding was the first thing. Yeah, he didn't know about it because saying I didn't know about it because then I can't be questioned about it. The same with the Sally Port. We know that Hank Brennan didn't put the Sally Port videos in through Uri, so he can't be questioned about the fact that he lied to the jury about them being inverted, and that's why he did it. And yet the judge does not have grave concerns about that being hidden from the jury. All right, okay. Front page coverage of all the lies and many photos that had me in tears. Is that the Boston Herald, right? LL, I don't know. I'm not sure what that is about. Let me know. Mara, I saw Karen's house. She sold online. It was a beautiful home. Yeah, it was a beautiful home. And that's where she was the night that she was waiting for the plumber to come. So yes, it was a beautiful home, but obviously she had to sell it. First of all, I don't think she could ever live in Massachusetts again. And secondly, she probably needed the money for her defense. Okay. So could it be a juror sick? It's being reported that Kimberly, that it's Karen Reed who's sick, and that's probably why they can go forward with a Zoom hearing. But yeah, no, if a juror was sick, then the question becomes: would the judge delay the trial for a juror for 1 day or put in an alternate? But that's not what's being reported. Okay. All right. Let's see. Simi Shrub, any idea whether late today it's being reported that Karen's sick? But we don't know that. That's not. It hasn't been officially reported. That's just a rumor out there. Okay. Making can't. Also, Uri said he didn't know Higgins. Albert's terrible. Has photos of Uri partying with Albert and Higgins. Oh, gosh. Yeah. We all know. We all know that that's a lie, in my opinion. That they all seem to know each other up there. They all know something. Okay. Are up there. So Jess Machado show is also reporting that Karen is sick. All right. So that's in the inner circle reporting that Karen was sick. Jess Machado reporting is sick, and that could easily be why she can't come to court there. And that could be why the judge says Zoom. You know what? If she remains sick, here's what the judge could do. Oh, she could be on Zoom watching with a phone with her attorneys to make objections or whatever, or have input. I could see the judge doing that. I actually could see that if she's sick for more than 1 day. Okay. Paula B, good, bad. Her interviews at least help expose the corruption in the world. I think they did. I think they did some good, but you know what? At some point, maybe you had to stop talking. Maybe one too many. Okay. Dizzy says, I have colitis and it would be in the hospital if I were going through a sheet. Yeah, colitis is this very serious, people don't realize it's a very serious situation. I mean, colitis is not Crohn's and colitis. Overall disease, picking up on the fact, Crohn's are immune deficiency diseases. Personally have Crohn's. Stress alone is probably killing. Very, very damaging. And if it turns out that it's more than that she has that because she had some type of colon cancer that was removed, or some type of polyp that was precancerous, that was removed, that's also serious, right? And we know that these are true because the jury hasn't heard the awful text now about our friend, the Proctor factor, talking about her bowel movement issues. They said he said that she had she was leaky or some sort. Just awful stuff. Okay. LL, today is Sandra Birchmore's birthday. I noticed that that Lizzie has been texting on that. Not Lizzie, Mizzy, who we had on. Mizzy B has been texting about that. That is her birthday. Okay. All right. So let's see who else we have. Can you talk about the Brady charge list? The Brady charge list. I'm not sure which list you want me to talk about in terms of Brady. There's a lot of things in terms of Brady, I think, in this case, that the judge doesn't have grave concerns about that they weren't turned over to late. But apparently, that's only something she does one-sidedly. Okay. Paula B, she had no investment in that case. Karen Reed case is different. Yeah, you're right about that. She had no investment in the case that was prior that Joanna the goddess attended. And as you know, we sought Joanna out. Joanna's not on this morning, but we sought her out because she was in our chat talking about being in the courtroom. And Judge Canoni, so we sought her out to have talk about it in Dahl. So, that's Joey Kane. This is kind of bonus for JSTV crew. I'm freewheeling. Yes, I am. I'm freewheeling, and I don't say spitball. That's kind of disgusting. I'm freewheeling. I'm answering your questions, but I normally don't have time to answer all of your questions, right? And I'm hoping that I can try to get through most of them here, and at least go to 11 o'clock to see where we are, and then we can see if indeed there's a Turtle Boy hearing later on at 2. We can get off and see if there's a Turtle Boy hearing at 2. But of course, you know that at 6 o'clock we're going to have a major show. We're bringing Yuri's big classic hits back to the channel, and we're going to talk. And hopefully we have Eliza. And I do want to reach out to Richie, and I want to look at that sweatshirt, and all again. And we'll do more of that in depth tonight. Renee Stevenson, good morning to all. Everyone, remember to take a second to hit the like button. Ooh, yes, thank you very much. Please hit that like button on your way, preferably on your way in, because you're coming in and then you're also going out, making sure it's due. Like, I'm supposed to, one thing I always forget to do until the end of the show, and Michael Bryan always forgets to do it, my dear streaming partner. You please hit that like, share, subscribe, and notify. And the notify, we've done it so when you hit notify, it hits notify all, or else it defaults and you have to hit it every time. Okay. But like and share and subscribe, especially like and subscribe. The subscribers, the more subscribers we get, and then hopefully we'll get more members. The more members we get, and Joey Kane gave us more memberships today. The more members we get, the more emojis we can have. And Michael Bryan's always posting member content. I apologize. I'm not as good at that as he is, but he is always posting member content, especially when he goes up to cover the trial that you all guys, if you're members, get first. And then, we do have different levels. You get different emojis, and we do have a top level. And the top level, you actually get to talk with us personally on a chat. We're going to be doing that at the end of the month with some dates that somebody who is one of the members of our Supreme Court are going to get, and that's a one-on-one chat by Zoom. Okay, so that's a pretty big deal. I know that when my husband and I do that for CrimeCon, they charge a fortune for 5 minutes, and they're strict. They have a timer and strict, and they charge a fortune. Not we don't get it, but it goes to whatever charity for crime victims of that year that CrimeCon is supporting. So that's what we try to do with the top membership right there. And also, as you know, if we ever get through Karen Reed, we're going to go to the Who Killed Stephanie, a case out of 1968-69 in Oregon, to try to solve that case, even though it's never been classified as a homicide. But this is a young woman who's been forgotten, who went to a pool party, and then after she left, it disappeared and never was found again. Her bones were found months later in a forest off a highway and all. And it's clear that she just didn't walk there by herself. And it's clear to me that that's a homicide. We're trying to track down her brother, who is still alive, and all, to see whether he will give us authority to try to go in and get the files. And the only reason why we're able to do this case is that in Oregon, you don't get death certificates. They remain quiet. They remain away from the public for 50 years. And so this case came to us through a friend of mine who said before he dies, he'd like to see her remembered because she's a forgotten victim. And so we're going to try to do that. And I'd like to get our members more involved in that first, to try to give them duties, if they want duties, to run different groups and different assignments that won't put anybody in danger. We're not going to do that, but just try to get more information and see if we can dig up anything about this to maybe make this an open case and all. And I know why it wasn't classified as a cold case, because the medical examiner couldn't classify a cause of death because her bones had been in a forest for years. Okay, and that's why. And sometimes that type of situation is something that victims do get forgotten. Okay. So yes, please hit that like button and the share and the subscribe and the notify. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you want to become a member, you know, that does cost, and hopefully you'll enjoy being a member with us. We're a young channel. We only decided to do this. You know, we last year we said, oh, we'll just around Long Crime, Michael Bryan and I will run 7 minutes a week. We'll do an episode or something, just because we wanted to talk and have fun and do something outside of being our. It was an avocation, because we're still running a full-time law practice of hosting on Long Crime a couple times a week, maybe then down to 1 time a week. But then when they decided they didn't want any commentary at all, and they didn't want the ability of all of you to ask questions to us, which I guess they're doing now on YouTube. They're trying to come back in the middle of lunch breaks like we do and ask questions. But we decided we're going to do this. And when we started, we didn't know what we were doing, you know, putting this together. And along came our mods who helped us get this. You know who you are. Sometimes they don't like to be called out, but I like to call them out. And they're great. And we're trying to make the channel grow. And because of you, we have jumped. I mean, we were worried in November because we started September. We had to have a certain amount of viewing hours of whether we'd make it, and we made it. And then, you know, all of a sudden we went from 500 to, you know, over 12,000 and then approaching 15,000. I hope our next goal, and then 20,000. So, you know, we're on it. We're on it, and we're on it really to answer your questions and to try to shine a light to the legal process, and understand as also why defense attorneys do things, why we do things, so that you won't have such a bad viewpoint of us, you know, right? Okay, so that's where we are. So here we are. Okay. You know, I don't know this thing about Wayne, so I'm going to stay out of it. Somebody giving fake news. Okay. So I'm going to stay out of that. Good morning, Kyoko. Perry, is it possible new evidence has been discovered? Apparently that's not the reason for it. You know, Shy Gal. Hi, Shy Gal, one of our mods. Poor Karen, I can't even imagine. She didn't look so great yesterday. The color in her face, she looked pale. And we've all had those days. We all know when we're getting sick. We all know when we're getting a cold, you know. And, you know, the stress of a trial gets everybody sick. You know, as a lawyer, when I was inspector, I caught pneumonia. I caught microplasma pneumonia. I was out of the courtroom for 3 weeks. And that's because the doctor told me when I finally went to him, because I could barely walk and stand up, that I was going to die this weekend. I mean, he said it was a Friday. You're going to die this weekend unless you do what I say. And that's, you know, you go to the hospital. I said, I can't go to the hospital. I'm in a high profile case. And you're going to stay in your hotel room. Here's your drugs. You're going to do absolutely nothing. And you're going to take these and hopefully we can pull you through. And he did. But I wasn't supposed to. I went back to the trial a week early because I said I had to get back. And I went back a week early. I looked like death do me over in that case. So if you look at me from the time I went back to the time we had the jury verdict. But I felt that I had to be there, and I had to be the one to close this case and make the closing statement. And, you know, and I still had pneumonia, and I still had reactive arthritis for a year from it, which is why I couldn't help Phil. So trials, you know, you get sick in trials. When I was in Hernandez, I scratched my cornea, probably like scratching on my eyes during the night. And I was in the emergency room of Massachusetts General with the surgeons trying to deal with the scratched cornea on it. And I was out of the case for a day. And when I went back the next day, I had to wear sunglasses because I had scratched cornea. So I couldn't get light in my eyes. And no one asked me why I was wearing sunglasses in court for a day, you know, and that was the reason why. You know, no one asked. It was actually kind of funny if you go back and look at the tapes. Okay, so trials are very, very stressful and all. Jose Baez and George Lantire on Hernandez, they had terrible bronchitis. I think George also had pneumonia going on. Terrible, because the stress and the association with people and everything runs you down. And what it does to a defendant is horrible too. It's their life on the line. Now they're sitting there, but it's their life on the line, you know. And as I say, we as lawyers, we get to go home if there's a guilty verdict. The defendant does not get to go home. All right. When said what? Not saying they should, but court can be held without Karen there. Correct. No, you really can't hold court without the defendant. a defendant would have to waive the right. In a murder case, an appellate division would find that that's really ineffective, unless it's somebody who is, absolutely, I'm not coming to court, even under order. I'm not coming by Zoom, even under order. But I think you can have a Zoom, and I think especially if the kids are there and they don't want to put the kids through everything, a Zoom hearing actually probably makes sense, even if she's really that sick. And since that's not going to be televised anyhow, you could play that Zoom hearing for the jurors tomorrow. Okay, when the jurors are back in court. Okay. All right, now. Just following Aiden for a second, because let's see. He says it's time for Judge Canodi to modify her unconstitutional ruling that the state highest court says needs to be modified. Yeah, she could do that today, right? That's what our case too. We have that's our case with Michael Bryant, an emergency petition that Mark Randazzo has filed to get this modified immediately, because what the First Circuit did is send it down back to the federal court below this to modify, and said, but the trial court could just take it on her own and read our opinion and modify it. And so she could modify right now, and she could go back to the original buffer zone that was found constitutional. And but we should be let in as press. Could be our press. Whether or not you're recognized for being a press pass in the courtroom, that may be a different issue. Although I think they've actually violated their own rules on that. It's just that we're fighting the good fight, and as I said, we're a small network. We're fighting the good fight. Where's everybody else? Where are the big people? Okay. When we did the ASAP Rocky case, we broke 3 stories, including the story about whether or not the judge at a sidebar questioned the prosecution about the ethics of continuing with their witness, Mr. Relly. All right, and we got attacked by some ridiculous reporter, and I'm going to say that because she attacked us, suggesting that we were lying, attacking our credibility. Our credibility is pretty solid. We've been around for a long time as attorneys, and we don't put our credibility as attorneys on the line for nothing. And our credibility is pretty solid here because we felt that the First Amendment was worth fighting for. And since the protesters have already won their case, Michael Bryant's case was stayed until tomorrow, I believe it is. Tomorrow will be I think it's the 14th, or it was the 15th, for them to make a ruling on that. And obviously his case would have more credibility now because he was prevented from gathering news in that buffer zone. And obviously they know that they were wrong because they've been allowing him in. We had the exclusive, Karen Reed answered us our exclusive questions to our Justice Serve TV correspondent, Michael Bryant, coming out of the courthouse, all right? Just to us as she's walking down the street 2 times with him. Goes to show you that we have credibility. Why? Because we're going to give everybody a fair shake. We give the state a fair shake. Come on the show, but no one seems to want to come on the show. Why? Maybe they feel they can't answer the hard questions. All right? Okay. Joey Kane. That will be an interesting cocktail reception in Harvard Square. Can I come? Harvard Square. I parked my car in Harvard Square. I'm not sure I'm going to be invited back. Oh, Shy Gal, thank you. Everyone likes me in pink, okay? So I've been wearing pink, And I know we do normally Fashion Fridays, but this is actually a Dolce necklace. I wanted Justice Serve TV to have jewelry. And this shirt's from Amazon. Okay, Amazon has some beautiful clothes. I think we posted the dress that all of you asked me about last week. We posted that on Amazon. And again, you start me on shopping. I'm just gonna, I love, as you know, I love my husband. I love my dogs. I love my son. I love my sister. I almost forgot Joan last time. I was like, whoa. I love shopping and I love poker. All right, there you go. You have my 6 pastimes. And I love this. And I love this because why? I can't put that in the same category specifically. This is my profession. This is my vocation, being a lawyer. I became a lawyer because I wanted to do justice, because I wanted to represent people. I always wanted to do criminal law. I wanted to do civil rights law. I wanted to do employment discrimination law, which I have done. I have a gazillion reported opinions on all of that because I love it. I love it. And I love imparting to you what I know, whether you like me or not. You don't have to like me. But if we as lawyers or people don't impart our knowledge of what we know to anybody, then what good is it? What good is what I have learned on how to try a case unless I tell people about it? It just, just what good is it? So yes, so anything and you can try to help people or tell people. Maybe they don't like you, but they may understand that you do know what you're talking about, and maybe a little bit gets through. Carrie Sepli Fredoso. The spelling, am I pronouncing that right? Carrie Sepli Fredoso. Makes you want to vomit about the kids. Yeah, I know. It's very, very upsetting. But it is what it is, and we're going to have to go with it, as we said. Blessed in Texas. Hi, Blessed in Texas. Do you think Judge Beverly Cannoni has, and I know you say Bev, and the one thing I do, because I am a lawyer and I do respect, just like I respect whoever the president is, I respect the office. Maybe I'm old fashioned that way. Maybe I'm young fashioned that way. I call her Judge Beverly Cannoni because I am a member of the bar and a number of bars. Federal, I mean, if you look at my, I'm a member of the U.S. Supreme Court bar, all the federal bars in New York, federal bar in New Jersey State, New York State, D.C. I'm a bar in all those jurisdictions. I mean, and that doesn't mean I go to the bar. I mean, I'm in a bar. I'm practice. I can practice in all those jurisdictions, and I have had so many prog vicis in so many states. And I don't want to undo my ability to do my own work to represent people. So I will call her the respected Judge Beverly Cannoni. Do you think Judge Beverly Cannoni is a soft spot for Brennan because they both defense attorneys, and that's why she lets him rant like a defense attorney during motions? No, I just think that, she knows, Hank Brennan, he's a member of the club up there. He's a Massachusetts lawyer. He's one of the good old boys, should I say that, no matter what. And yes, and good old defense boys, yes. As I said, defense attorneys get under siege. So I do think that happens. But I also think she has a dislike, because even though he's a defense attorney, for Alan Jackson, because of this whole ACA things. And that's one of the things. And they went after her about not doing the right thing, and the judge's charge, and the defense here went after her. And I just don't think she likes that. It shouldn't be personal. It shouldn't be absolutely personal. It really shouldn't be. Blessed in Texas. I love your rants. I don't know. Have we put up? I don't know. Is Oasis Cat had the chance to put the card and my rant up yet? I don't know if my rant has gone up yet. Hopefully it'll go up sometime today. One of my rants. So thank you very much. And, I hope I rant with effectiveness, but it just gets me so pissed off because we spend so much of our life trying to do the right thing. And when you see things that are wrong, you have to call it out. And I actually, through our JSTV TV, retweeted lawyer today, Peter Tragos, because he thought that the worst ruling the judges made in this case was to have Dr. Uri become Dr. Uri, right? I'm not sure it's the worst ruling she's made, but if you want to have one of her top 10 hits, it's right up there. Although I think there's a lot of top 20 hits. I mean, I think the ACA thing and her dislike of that and bringing those people, and that's pretty bad. But at least that wasn't in front of the jury. This was in front of the jury. I think a lot of things in front of the jury lately she's done have just been terrible. And I think her rulings have been awful, especially since she knows the real truth about the Commonwealth hiding evidence. And that's how Hank Brennan's very effectively trying this case. He's hiding the worst things for the prosecution, daring the defense to bring them in. Knowing that sometimes they can't, okay? And I think it's wrong, and I think she should be treating the prosecution as people who are corrupt, not the defense. All right, but that's almost a rant, maybe like a little mini rant, okay? Thanks, Blessed in Texas, for, again, your incredible generosity, because you're always so generous to us, and your thanking of the rants makes them all worthwhile, okay? Let's see, we should be getting some news about whether or not really the indications if the kids are testifying behind closed doors, which if they were there for the trial to be put on, yeah, that's could be what's happening. And maybe we won't know until we know that it was done, so somebody leaks it, okay? Laura McLeod says, The daughter is included in the O'Keefe civil suit. So sad considering how Karen helped her to get into a private school. The whole thing is so sad. It's unbelievable. I'd be curious to see see me sharp. I'd be curious to see the custody file when Jock took the kids from Peg. Yeah, when he got guardianship. Interesting, right? Because there were rumors where they didn't really speak very often. But boy, she was used by the prosecution. You know, and any mother's grief, you know, it's mother's grief. Okay, yeah, Joey Kane and the Dighton cop. Yeah, right. The prosecution not going to call the Dighton cop. So when that car went into the Sallyport, the taillight was only slightly cracked, indicative of indeed the hitting of the car in the driveway. Right. I also don't know whether the Ford Edge thing has come out. It's come out, but in a way that's helpful to the defense, in the way that the jury gets it. Because in the first trial, a lot of this came out as the prosecution hiding this stuff. And now the defense is trying to bring it out. But yeah, again, the judge knows all this, Joey, you know, and yet why is it that I'm sure the pressure has been on that Dighton cop. Okay, let's see if that Dighton cop, when he comes back this time, called by the defense, obviously, is going to have the same story, because everybody seems to be changing their stories. And there's no grave concern about that, is there? Okay, no grave concern about that. Okay, Mara, Lucky would have seen a body. The snowplow had a floodlight on it. He's used to looking for things. Yeah, and that's what he said. He said there was no body. You know, I mean, and it wasn't, as we learned from their own meteorologists, which I think backfired on them. There wasn't that much snow on the ground, like what, 1/8 of an inch or something like that. It was hardly anything at that time. And then even when he was you know, at the later time, it wasn't as much as the prosecution. The real snow came after 6 o'clock in the morning. That's when the real snow really started to come. Yeah, well after 6 o'clock in the morning, like 7 o'clock. You know, so Gwen said, what? They've worked overtime poisoning the kids and shaping what they should say. Sure. Yeah. Kids are very vulnerable, and these kids are in a very, very vulnerable spot. I mean, I have nothing but compassion for these children who seem to have lost everybody in life and their whole world's being upended. Perry, every independent witness seems to support Karen Reed. The two who saw Karen Reed loading the vehicle, the snowplow guy, Officer Barrows, who said the taillight was cracked, not completely broken. Yeah, the independent witnesses, and even John O'Keefe's best friend, as I said, he said that the relationship was fine when that day, and the only thing they would be fighting about was, no, it wasn't fighting, it was arguing about, disagreeing about. The reason why he was mad at her was because she was spoiling the kids. I thought anyone who really was independent, you know, doesn't have that, you know, just I don't know, just doesn't have that hatred that I'm going to get Karen Reed every step of the way on this trial. Mara, Lucky went down the street twice. Yes, he did go down the street twice. Yeah, so, you know, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. Gwen said, what if they can get grown people to lie, kids to rely on them for survival? It's easy. Yes, brainwash is definitely very easy. As I said, we see that in matrimonial cases all the time. Okay, we see that in matrimonial cases all the time. And you know, I don't talk about any of you have ever been in a matrimonial case. I've seen that. Okay, Blessed in Texas, again, with your generosity, I appreciate all you just answered to me. Well, I appreciate that you ask these questions, because unless you ask the questions, I can't answer them. So, you know, I just get the rant. Madeira Beach caregiver also. Oh my God, Madeira Beach caregiver. Oh my goodness gracious. I mean, last week and then this week again too. Thank you. This will help Michael Bryant next week. All of you donating help Michael Bryant next week going back to Canton. I'm not so much worried about his bail money anymore as I used to be. Let's talk about AJ versus Brian Steele. Okay. Steele confronted and made many motions, Ray corrupt Glanville. Why isn't this biased Bev judge, after all this time, it's confronted? Lastly, I'm sad to see Steele is on the Diddy defense team. Hope his morals weren't overridden by cash, I guess, right? All right, let's talk about that. I think the defense has made motions at the sidebars. Whether they formally put them in writing, I don't know, but I think they have made motions at the sidebars about her. I think that's why she came back and gave that half-assed apology the other day about, well, I seemed a little cranky or something like that, some ridiculous amount, because I think that Alan Jackson has to be, and hopefully they're working on a full motion. But the problem is that if you go to recuse herself now and you lose, they go after you more. Glanville they also had Love too, and she was outrageous and all. But yeah, so Brian Steele was at him. Remember, he was going to jail. He was going to jail because they had the issue that the judge wouldn't allow the questioning about, wouldn't allow to give up the source on the questioning of who said that a main witness was bought, and that was Little Woody, bought inside chambers, and really was the prosecution was trying to get them, with the consent of the judge, to change his story, right? And intimidation of a witness, interference with justice, corruption, all sorts of stuff. And they had that. That was really bad. They don't have that kind of seminal issue here, where the judge with the prosecutor meets with a witness. I mean, if they had that seminal issue, I think there'd be no doubt about it. But Brian Steele was ordered to go to jail. And then my friend Ashley Merchant, a great attorney who's been on the show a number of times, came in representing Brian Steele with all the force of the Bar Association behind, and went after Glanville. And I think that was the time that Glanville's boss then had to step in. To me, it'd be almost like Uri's boss. Uri boss would have stepped in and said, "You're not testifying to this shit, okay? We're coming in, and you're not testifying to that, and whatever Mr. Hank Brennan told you, you're not doing, okay? Because you're embarrassing us, and you're testifying wrong, and you're testifying whatever." That's almost like a seminal issue with the state police, but they don't have that because the state police didn't come in and try to do that. I don't think. I think they did maybe speak to him, but they didn't pull him off the stand, did they? But they don't have that seminal issue. But Brian Steele was fearless and willing to go to jail. I think Alan Jackson be willing to go to jail too. I think that Alan is fearless also, and I think they have made those motions at sidebar for the judge. That's why you're getting it, and you're also, if she gets convicted, you'll see all those motions. They've got a list of everything that she's done. But they can't get her off the case. She ain't going anywhere because she is the top dog. Remember, she is the top dog. There's no one to complain about. That's why she was running all these committees and all. So sad to see Steele's on Diddy defense team. Yeah, well, maybe he believes that the case, a lot of times we take clients not just because we think they're not guilty of the top, but we think they're not guilty of the top charge or some of the charges. Now, the defense made a point yesterday in Diddy, since we're talking about Diddy for a second, and Michael Bryant will one of these days go down to see Diddy. Weinstein's still being tried, right? And we haven't had a chance to really speaking about him because most of you're interested in Karen Reed, and New York doesn't have cameras in the courtroom, so it's kind of hard for all of you to have justice out in the light when you can't see justice. In the federal courts, we know everyone's interested in waiting in line since like 3:30 this morning because the federal courts had some pilots years ago and then undid them. They don't want cameras in the courtroom. I'm told basically the judges don't want to be known. They don't want to be seen. They don't want to know who they are. They don't want to the Supreme Court justices want to be able to go to dinner. Not that we don't know who they are, right? But at least the Supreme Court allows the audio streaming of their argument, so you can listen to the audio streaming of the argument, at least hear that. I mean, we should be at least listen to audio streaming going on of what's going on in the courtroom. That should be not threatening to anybody. And doesn't interfere with anything. I think that's, at least should happen. But maybe they don't think he's guilty of this RICO charge. Now, I'm using RICO in a case right now, a civil case in New Jersey in a federal court, and the judge dismissed it only because of the issue that's pending before the Supreme Court about what damages do you have to have a RICO count. And as usual, my clients are on the cutting edge of the law, and we're waiting. The judge said we could refile depending on what and depending on what some of the damages are and whether the Supreme Court ruling is going to allow RICO counts and damages. Okay, so sometimes RICO can be overused. I think RICO was overused by obviously in Georgia for the criminal cases, and I think that may be what Brian Steele's issue is, why they brought him in, that perhaps Diddy is guilty on some counts. And remember, we have to presume him innocent, no matter we may not like what we read, okay? But if we all believe in the Constitution, he is presumed innocent until and unless the jury says he's guilty and the government has proven the case beyond a reasonable doubt. So I think that there may be an issue with regard to the RICO count. Also, he wasn't being, to me, the worst thing I saw was the assault on Cassie, right? That was terrible. That was the assault on Cassie, which we've all seen it on the hotel tape. And then apparently there was a non-disclosure agreement for the security cameras not to be released with the hotel of that tape, which we finally saw released. But in this case, he's not being charged with an assault upon her, an assault and battery on her. So to me, why outside the statute of limitations, maybe? I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it, not enough, whatever. So, but they're using it to bring in RICO. And I think that's where Brian Steele has an issue. The overuse of RICO now by government attorneys, whether they're state or federal, on charging defendants, so that you could bring in everything that may have even been pleaded to or not pleaded to or wasn't considered a crime, and now marketed as a crime in criminal proceedings, as if the government doesn't have enough of a hammer on all of us. All right. So I think that's why he was brought in, and I think that's a good reason, because I do think that RICO is being overused in these criminal proceedings and what RICO tells me in these criminal proceedings now is you may not have a case, right? But somehow you've got to get all this other stuff that may be outside the statute of limitations. And I worry about whether the government has a case, although what was testified in the court was extremely disturbing yesterday. I mean, my God, as a young prosecutor, I did not know when I first was a young prosecutor brought into the sex crimes unit, and the issue was golden showers, and I didn't know what that was. I mean, it was quickly explained to me. So what we heard yesterday was extremely disturbing, that Diddy apparently paid somebody to urinate in the mouth of Cassie while he watched, and that was bothersome, right? Okay, extremely bothersome, especially if she was really under his thumb and had no free will at that point to object to anything. So that was bothersome. But to me, what is bothersome on the government is the use of the RICO. Let's see if he's running a sex ring, if he's bringing in kids and he's bringing a sex ring and bringing in people from other countries in order to profit off this kind of stuff and or to give him his jollies off this kind of stuff, so be it. But I think maybe the RICO count is again, it's one of those hammers that you try to get people to plead, because you don't have as good of a case unless you have that hammer. So Madeira Beach Camera, I hope that answers your question. But again, thank you so much for your donation. As usual, so generous. All of you so generous, but so generous. And I know you're coming to New York soon, right? And you're going to let me know when you come. All right. Touche. Oh, touche. Do you think in her bias the judge is ignoring the obvious and stretches the law, or she truly believes Brennan's arguments and these lying witnesses? How could she okay, I don't want to rant. How could she believe Brennan's arguments when she had trial one, knowing what happened to some of these people? How knowing that the truth was being hidden, right? Knowing that the prosecution is what's the word I want to use? Okay, let me see the word. Let me cover myself up with this. All right, justice served. All right, justice served is not hiding the truth, right? Justice served is not hiding the truth. Let me say it again. Justice served is not hiding the truth. This is me. This is truth. Okay. All right. If I put this under, I'm hiding behind something. All right. She knows. What bothers me is she knows that there's more to this, and that sometimes when you don't tell the whole truth, right, you lie. It's not that you actively lie. Sometimes let's separate them out. They're both lies, but you don't tell the whole truth. I think not telling the whole truth may be worse of a lie than just lying, because lying is easy to catch, but not telling the whole truth. But she knows that. She knows that the prosecution had videos. She knows that Proctor ended up with a jump drive. She knows that the defense doesn't have some of the evidence behind the electronic evidence behind the electronic testimony that they're supposed to have. All right, she knows that Uri testified to the accuracy of the Sally Port video, that no one had access to the right taillight, and that was untrue. She knows all that happened. So how could she not? How could she not? Okay, allow the defense to do this? I think she's ignoring it because she, in some way, she believes that Karen Read is guilty no matter what. All right, and even though she's a defense attorney, she believes, and as I always say, judges should get off the bench, take off the robes, and sit at the prosecution table, because that's what we are seeing right here, to me, in some of her rulings. Okay, come at me. All right, come at me. I'm not disrespecting her. I am disrespecting her rulings, and I'm disrespecting the fact that, in my view, she knows all this stuff, and she should be allowing this case to be tried as it is and let the chips fall as they may be. Now, just so you know, we, as I told you, we are going to have a show today, right? We're going to also see if we can get a Zoom link for Aiden's hearing at 2. And if that happens, Michael Bryant will be on with that Zoom link for Aiden's hearing and covering that hearing at 2, just so you all know that, just so you know what we're going on that. And then, of course, at 6 o'clock, we're going to be doing an hour-and-a-half show. And also, where I know you're going to have more questions, because as the day proceeds, things are going to happen. Nothing is calm with this case. But Touche, I hope that answered your question. I mean, I think that she's so biased against the defense in this case, and her rulings are so they can't be that terrible. They just can't be that terrible unless they're rooted in bias. They just can't be, because she's not stupid. And when she redid the rules for discovery, her Rule 14 for discovery expanded it to be more what it should be in other states. We in New Jersey, what I object to is every time I see states trying to limit discovery, like New York is going back on their discovery that they're now allowed. We've had that since 1978. You have a duty to give over everything you have. I mean, you just give it over. It's everything, and if you don't, goodbye, so long, farewell to your license. And so I come from a state that discovery was so broad, from 1978 law. All right. So when I started practicing it, like, what be this? When I went to New York, and it was in my first case in New York, what be this that I don't get police statements until they get on the, what be this kind of discovery? Okay. All right. Oh, Dizzy said the court said the public can only attend in person for Aiden's hearing. Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. I mean, yeah, we have a right to be in a courtroom, but they know that there's a lot of interest in Aiden's hearing, okay? And so we can't get a Zoom link, okay? They're not going to Zoom it. It is specifically outrageous, okay? I mean, this is a court that has allowed cameras in the courtroom. If you're going to allow cameras in the courtroom, and you know that it's very important to everybody, wow. Okay. That they tried this once before, remember? But they tried this once before and then didn't allow it. So I just find that absolutely incredible. Now, Aiden has not mentioned much about his hearing on his Twitter site, his X site. We've been monitoring that, but Diz is reported, and Diz always has it right. Okay. All right. Theoretical wet work. I've been quietly watching your reporting for a while. This one, expressing your integrity, is what got me subbed. Thank you. I really appreciate your subscription. I try to tell it as I see it. A lot of defense attorneys dislike it when I say that somebody is guilty, or I say the prosecution's doing a great job. They think, you have to be right down the line. If you're a defense attorney, right down the line. I'll tell you like I see it, all right? Because that's what I want to do. I mean, I want to tell you why I see it like I see it too, and I try to do that, all right? And so thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And look, we like you to participate here as you think, okay? We love you to participate. We're hoping, and I think all of us that do this, and you see that there's millions of people now are streaming this trial through, about 20 of us. We're one of the smaller ones, but we have a growing base streaming this trial, and you see that most of our subs come back and our members come back to talk here, because we want you to be involved. We want you to ask us questions. We try to have you involved. We try to bring on guests for you that have something to offer you. And all that are involved in the place. Michael Bryan is going to make his 11th, and I count them, 11 trips up to Canton, Dedham, Stoughton. He's on Stoughton. He's been to the Sandra Birchmore apartment house. Canton, he's shown you Fairview, and I think you're up to something about 80,000 views on the drive from Fairview to Karen Reed's house. Now, we went one way, all right? She may have gone home the other way. And he's going to do that other drive the other way, because at one point the prosecution abandoned the 3-point turn. Now they've got the 3-point turn in there. So it doesn't really matter. It's the way Waze takes you, and it's about equidistance. So it's almost close. Okay, here we go. Breaking. Judge Canoni is holding a Zoom hearing with the attorneys for Karen Reed. Prosecutors are in the courtroom. Attorneys Yannetti and Jackson are appearing remotely. The judge wants a sidebar. All right, so is she allowing that to be public, or is she allowing, Bev has kicked out media and closed the courtroom? This sounds to me that the kids then are testifying by Zoom that Karen Reed can watch from her hotel room or whatever safe house, workhouse that they have set up, and she can watch by Zoom and therefore be participatory in it. And again, I don't remember from the last trial whether there was any cross-examination of the children. I don't think so. My recollection was no, but I'm not sure, so I don't want to represent that to you. And then that Zoom hearing then gets taped. It's in the courtroom. It gets taped because the children were probably there ready to testify today. And this was a way around doing it. And then they will show then that Zoom hearing to the jury. That's my best guess at what's going on. And I will say to you that it is a guess as what's going on, but I'm pretty sure it's a good guess, okay, as to what's happening, especially since she's kicked the media out of the courtroom, which is what was going to happen if the children were going to testify anyhow from the media advisory we got last week, because last week Hank Brennan's plan was to bring them in Friday to close the weekend off so the jury could go home with having those poor children on the stand and feel, sorry for the kids and have that turn into a hatred for Karen Reed. So that's what I think is happening right now, okay? And all. Disney Nerd 85, I agree, Linda. I could see this judge saying, well, you can be on Zoom. Yeah, absolutely. I've seen judges. There was one, I don't remember the case. Somebody was in a hospital room with like oxygen masks and all, and because he could be on Zoom, the judge allowed whatever proceeding it was to go forward. I don't know if it was I don't think it was a jury trial, but the person's like, you look like you're on the last legs on life support, and yet the judge, that's participation. Welcome to the United States of the courtroom. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we have going on here. Theoretical wet work, no need to sugarcoat on an already compelling case. Yeah, this case really has taken root, and in the community up there, it is the case that really has become. Even if you didn't know about Karen Reed and know all these things that seem to be improper, which happen, by the way, in so many cases, and as defense attorneys, we get hit down all the time. There's this hiding of evidence and shielding of evidence. Look at how many innocence projects people there are, right? For withholding of evidence or phoning of evidence or making up evidence. Look at that, right? We know about that, right? But this case seems to become the vehicle, not just for what's wrong in the court, but what's wrong with the police up there, what's wrong with the political system up there. People are unhappy, and they've latched on to Karen Reed has, from starting with 3 supporters on a bridge, they've latched onto Karen Read to show their, shall I say, their winter of discontent, to modify Shakespeare, or not modify Shakespeare a little, to show their summer of discontent, their spring of discontent, and their fall of discontent, but to show their discontent. And now we're seeing why they have discontent, and that's what this case is about. That has made it grown so worldwide, and I think it also expresses all of our discontent with the government. Right? We're all discontent with the government for some way. Us defense attorneys have been discontent with the government and the way they prosecute cases for a long time. I, as a prosecutor, I tried to work for a prosecutor who was like, hey, you give everything bad over to you give everything. I had open files that make people, if they had an issue with a conviction, here, have another attorney come, go in my conference room. Here's a box, even my notes, everything was open. I didn't hide anything. You get my note, anything, everything was open. You try to get notes from Hank Brennan, you know what you're going to say? Attorney-client privilege. You know what the judge would say? Yeah, you have an attorney-client privilege. I've been arguing before the federal courts and all courts, in every case I have, that there is no privilege, attorney-client privilege in a prosecutor's case, because the prosecutor is you and I. Okay, we're the state, we're the Commonwealth, and that anything they have, notes and all, should be revealed. That they have no attorney-client privilege. If somebody tells them something as a witness, there is no privilege to that. All right, because they are us. And so far, one of these days, I know a court, I saw some federal court recently adopted on one case, and the court should adopt that. All right. Open the file, have the file all open, whether it's electronic or whether you have, and attorneys we still like, as you see in a courtroom, because witnesses have to be refreshed with paper documents. It's really hard to just try a case with everything on your computer. You can have it all on there, but you have to have the trial books. And that's what they're carrying in. When you see all these things coming in, everybody has trial books. Each witness has what's called a trial notebook. For each witness, you have the notebook. Anytime they've been mentioned, you have everything related to them in one trial notebook. So you can bring it up and you can cross them on it. And so when you get to that, when they're carting up the ramp and all, and you're starting to see defense attorneys bring that, it's because they have those notebooks for some severe cross-examination that's going on. Okay? All right. Let's see, Shy Gal, I don't know who you're posting about posting, so I can't repeat that because I don't know. Arca's my favorite because they have the children on stand on Zoom. Yes, I agree. That's exactly what's going on. I think that's exactly what's going on right now. Kathy Bennis, I love being here with all of you. Thanks. I mean, you're building up your own community. Yes, and you're talking to each other, and thank you very much. Thank you for building up your community here. Let's see. Okay. See, Gwen said, what, just block Brian Rowe, McAlbert, not worth it, arguing with an amoeba. Obviously something happened there. You guys all know because you're chatting. Okay. You're chatting. Okay. So yes, thank you for everybody who's joining us. Bittersweet, thank you for everybody who's joining us. Theoretical, wet work. When you've met your share of dirty cops and bought benches, you just know, don't cross the thin blue line. Yeah, that's why I think the defense made a serious mistake on the first trial. They put, and he's been identified, and I forget his name now. They put left a former cop from New Hampshire on the trial, who then went into becoming working with one of the hospitals in Massachusetts for change his career. But I think once a cop, always a cop. And I tell the story of I would had left the Skakel case because I wouldn't try the case with Mickey Sherman because I thought he was awful, and I said that even though I know he went through hard times, but Skakels came right back to me, and look at the result. We ended up with Michael Skakel being exonerated after years and all, because I put together their appellate team, and he was simply not guilty of the murder that he had been found guilty of. But one of the things that Mickey Sherman did there is left a cop, number 7, on the trial in the jury. Didn't want a jury consultant because he knew better. And he said, well, if I can convince the cop that he's innocent, I can convince the whole jury. You cannot get over the thin blue line. Simple as that. All right. And I represent a lot of cops. I represent a lot of good cops. And I've represented them when they've sued their own departments for being whistleblowers. All right. And won. But they then don't get to stay to be cops. They usually will stay and then they'll retire and all later on. It's because once you become a whistleblower, if you are anyone in a corporation, you know what happens. It's not a good thing for your career, right? So yeah, I don't put cops on my jury. Perry, Brian, anyone who thinks the injuries on Joe Arm were caused by a vehicle would be rejected by most cults for being too deluded. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Discworld Edge Witch, honestly, with all Karen's disabilities, it's a miracle she hasn't had more sick days, in my opinion. So I believe the folks who say Karen is not well. So did he say it was a quick 15-minute hearing, so it can't be too important, right? Well, it could be the kids. Kids could have testified within 15 minutes. They were very quick on the first trial. They were extremely quick because there was no cross-examination. All right. But was there... The other thing it could be is this. All right. Now, I don't know. And I assume that we're going to find out at some point. Could it be that the judge was not happy that Karen was sick, and so she wanted to see her on Zoom or have some kind of doctor or some kind of, because she didn't trust the defense, and therefore she wanted that on Zoom? Could that have been instead of the children? And since they were talking about medical issues, that would be HIPAA protected, recovered, and so it was on Zoom, so it'd be part of the record, but she wanted to actually see for herself. Could that possibly be? I mean, if that could possibly be, I would say that's one sick doing, okay? Only attorneys were in on it. Yeah, but then she want representation from the attorneys, right, Dizzy? She want to have simple representations. Now, you know, that's the other thing. I mean, and if it were something about somebody reported lying on the stand, I don't want to start that. I don't even want to go there because then I don't want anyone to report that because that's just a rumor. I'm thinking out loud. She'd want that as to what somebody's heard and maybe why there needed to be an adjournment on the record. I don't know. You know, well, we're going to see, because we all know that secrets can't be secrets for so long. So we're all kind of like trying to figure this out. I would imagine that the person with the most knowledge, who is the source of this, there's going to be something that's going to be coming out eventually during today, which is why I can't wait for our 6 p.m. show tonight, because we're going to be obviously trying to work sources to see, was it the kids quickly on the stand? Was it just the attorneys and the kids were on Zoom? If the kids weren't in the courtroom, then it couldn't be the kids, unless maybe they were in the courtroom. Maybe they were on Zoom because they were planning to testify. Was it just that she's dealing with, she wanted to have a Zoom hearing to see whether Karen Reed really was sick, all right? She wanted representations from the defense, because you know how she likes to get those representations from Alan Jackson. So in case there's something, she can go back at him, all right? All right, so I don't have any hopes that it was something that came up with regard to somebody reporting anyone lying, and therefore they have to investigate it. I don't have any hopes, but that's another possibility. So we shall see. The only thing we really know is that there is no court today, and the only second thing we really know is that if you want to go to Aiden's hearing, you have to go in person, and that's not going to be Zoom. So why don't we see if I can finish up answering some of your questions here, so then we can get off, take some lunch, and we'll try to get our show prepared for tonight, see who else we can get on to maybe even answer this issue. Let's see. I'm trying to look at all your questions. Mark Wardell says, yes, I saw the waterfall bar, the microdots. Microdots is pretty spectacular. I really like to get Richie on, because I think this is the microdot sweatshirt that Eliza was wearing when she was so rudely told she couldn't wear it in the buffer zone, and so rudely told that she either had to take off her Aiden shirt in the buffer zone and question with her bra on inside the police car. I can't wait for this, okay? I can't wait for this Total abuse of power. Okay, if we're going to use the S word, total fucking abuse of power. Total abuse of fucking power. Okay, whatever you want to use. This is a rant. All right, this is outrageous if they did that. Okay, and that would be another outrage that's going on here. And quite frankly, Judge Canoni should have modified the buffer zone by now. It didn't take much to modify the buffer zone. She does his other rulings very quick. She knows the First Circuit was against her. What are they planning? Are they planning to appeal that, the Commonwealth? Are they planning to go for an appeal? I don't think so on that, because they would lose. Okay. Okay. So anyhow, let's see. Aiden's docket doesn't list a hearing for today. Next hearing listed is 6:20. Yeah, Aiden wasn't tweeting anything about it, so I'm kind of interested in that as to what's going on there. So normally he tweets about that. Okay, and all. Haven't heard anything about the Wi-Fi data from Fairview Properties. Surely they had Wi-Fi. You're right. Unlike Coburger, right? Coburger, we heard all about this Wi-Fi data coming in and hitting the Wi-Fi, and we haven't heard any of that. You're absolutely right, Perry. I hadn't thought about that. That's why I love talking with you, and that's why this is so great to have some actually free-rolling time to talk with you, because I love hearing about that, right? You're right. Surely they had Wi-Fi. So when did everybody's hit, in the Wi-Fi? Maybe it's not good for anybody. Maybe it's because maybe it doesn't shed any light since no one has brought it out. Maybe it doesn't shed any light on anyone since it would show that everyone's at it. But it certainly shows when people hit the Wi-Fi data, and Hank Brennan was so big on, have you investigated how far from John O'Keefe's router at one Meadows, Karen Reed's phone would have hit it. All right. Wouldn't he be so interested in the same issue with Fairview? Okay. Very good pickup. I'm actually going to take a screenshot of this, because Harry, if you don't mind, because that is a really good pickup, and I'm going to send these actually right now. I'm going to do these right now. Oh my gosh! It turns out when I get all this on, seeing I have all these people that are texting me. Okay, all these people that are texting me. Yeah, we're gonna do 6 to Michael Bryant. No. 6 to 7:25 actually will be the time we'll be on the air today. I'm just going to answer a reporter about it, talking about it. Wants to know what I think about it. Text back soon. Okay. My sister is actually texting me. I don't know if she's, I don't know whether she's on the chat. Are you on the chat, Joan? Okay. You heard about my prosecution life. Well, that's my prosecution life. Yes. Perry Gorina. Oh, Perry Gorina says Dizzy. Perry Gorina researched and testified about. He testified about John's Wi-Fi. I don't remember hearing about that. I know he testified about Fairview Wi-Fi. He testified about John's Wi-Fi, but Dizzy, I don't remember hearing about the Fairview Wi-Fi router. Okay. Did Guarina testify in this trial about the Fairview Wi-Fi router in this trial? I know we're talking about John's at the Meadows, but I don't remember hearing about it at the Fairview one. So just check back with me. Check back and see whether it was this. Okay. Let's see. Can't find Baker's. I can't find Baker Higgins bid. I can't find Baker's Higgins bid. Definitely definitely Higgins. If it was Higgins, wasn't moving cars around. That's for sure. He got in cars, but he wasn't moving them around. Okay. Dizzy says, I know there's no hearing on his docket in Dedham. So, I mean, are we into the fact that Aiden hasn't texted about it, but the fact that somebody said you have to be in court, I don't know. We're kind of spitballing here. We don't know until Aiden talks about it. We probably won't know. Okay. Edge World, if the Commonwealth doesn't call Proctor, how bad might that look to a jury? Could it be worse than if the defense calls him, in your opinion? I have wrestled with this with Michael Bryan, and I have wrestled with this about, if you, first of all, if you call Proctor, Proctor can, and I know there's been some issues about this, take the Fifth Amendment. It's irrelevant if he testified in a previous trial. It's irrelevant if he testified at his hearing. In this trial, given what the defense is saying that he may have lied and may have phonied evidence, he could take the Fifth Amendment. And you can't call a witness knowing he could take the Fifth Amendment. Do they know more than we know? Or, they're trying to get off Proctor's text into everybody else. I wouldn't want them to convert Proctor into a prosecution witness by allowing the prosecutor to cross-examine and say, you never took any pieces, you never took this, you never took that. I think the defense is best off not calling Proctor for whatever they lose. Higgins, Higgins, did they call Higgins? Or did they just leave it out there that the state didn't call them? I think you can get into a lot of trouble calling a witness. And by the way, we've heard that Higgins is not going to testify. Maybe Higgins is going to take the Fifth on the throwing of the phone away, but he's not going to testify in any proceeding. You may be better off by arguing that the prosecution, didn't call their own witnesses, right? Why not? Why not? Okay. So to make it again, Aiden said he had court today on his live last night in Dedham specifically, he thought. So, and we'll see. We'll keep monitoring it, okay? We'll keep monitoring it, okay? Toy says, Mark Wardle says, Toy, the video shows Higgins move the car at the back of the lot. I thought I didn't see him moving it, but, that's why juries see different things, right? Laura McLeod, your husband is a hero. Thank you very much. Yes, he has, he tells it like he thinks it too. I mean, he testifies for the defense in cases that people don't believe it, but he is absolutely sure of his opinion. And when he tells you somebody didn't do it, you can take it to the bank. All right. At this stage of his career, especially, he doesn't really need to go testify for defendants that he doesn't think have a case. I mean, he simply doesn't need to do it. This world, oh, that's right. Not all heroes wear a cape. Some of us just do our careers and try to do the right thing, as Michael Bryan said. Try to do absolutely the right thing. See me sharp still there, be lurking and working. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, you could. As yesterday, I was lurking because I couldn't be on. I was obviously involved in another matter, and then I had a function I had to go to last night for actually Physicians for Reproductive Health, which I know a lot of people, and I want to support them whatever your views are. That's my view. That I am pro-family and pro-choice, and I'll make no. You could disagree with me. We can all disagree. But at least hopefully we can disagree without shooting one another, which is, it's interesting being at one of these events. You have to always, me as a lawyer and knowing law enforcement a lot, always scanning the room, always scanning the room, to making a count. I wonder if Hank asked that Karen not be in the courtroom when kids testify to paint a picture. He can't ask that she's not in the courtroom. She has a right to be there. All right, it's a Sixth Amendment right, so he can ask all he wants. Joey Kane, another Justice Serve TV membership. Thank you, Joey. Thank you. I really appreciate that. We all appreciate that too. Shay, again, what happens to the cases that lawyers are leading? That orders lawyers have during cases like this? They pause taking new clients. All right, that's a real complicated issue. Okay, yes, having been in cases for months. When I was in Jason Williams, I lived in a hotel for months. Phil Spector. I mean, other cases you don't know about. Hernandez. If you have a law firm that has a lot of lawyers, you can take cases in. I take cases in. But I also could pause cases. I also, will tell people, and a lot of people are not happy when I say, look, I have enough cases right now. I cannot take this case. I can refer you to somebody, but I'm just not taking new cases right now, because what I do now, since I gave my law firm to my partners, but I'm now of counsel to another law firm, they may decide to take the case. They do employment discrimination, civil rights work. I do more of the criminal work. All right. They do federal work, and I could not do without them. They are great. David Krenkel and Lisa Krenkel. David was actually an employee of mine when I had my own big law firm. And then I decided to do this of counsel bit and go all around the country and work on cases with other lawyers. So I always have co-counsels on cases, whether it be my own law firm or not. But sometimes you can pause, sometimes you're not. Jackson's involved with a big firm, so his firm is probably taking cases, all right? But it's very hard, when you have 2 or 3 high-profile cases to deal with them at the same time. You try to take maybe just one case that's all-consuming. And let me tell you, the clients understand. They'll say to the client, look, you know where I am, you know what I'm doing, and they're okay with it. And as long as they know that as soon as you get back, you'll be as attentive to their case as you are to the case you're on, they're pretty happy with it. And clients generally like seeing their lawyers in the news. I mean, believe it or not, they kind of like it. They're very proud of you, and they're very supportive of you. So it kind of depends about whether you're Paul's taking a new client, depends whether you're a single practitioner or whether you have help or whether you can hire help. But, the clients come to your firm because they want you if they're coming, especially on a criminal case. In my firm, they may come, David and Lisa, they'll come to them directly on civil matters and all because I'm of counsel. And they have a great law firm. They're in New Jersey, Krenkel. Lisa's also a municipal judge 1 day a week. And she is just fabulous and great. And I couldn't live without them anyhow. So that's the answer to that to say. Bill Fripp, Aiden's in Worcester's period with LG for his defamation suit against her. Oh, is that what it is? Okay. So it's not it's his case, but it's not the one that he is the defendant in. Oh, very, very good. I've done a bunch of defamation cases. I like the defamation lawsuit, except I don't like it the way when it gets misused against victims of sexual assault, and you charge them, and then people then sue you. As Mark Randazzo said, that's what we have slap statutes for. So we're wrong with that. So thank you all for that. Let's see what other things I can answer since I plan to be with you anyhow for a while. His motion to dismiss could be for the Stone case. So now we know the answer. So blessed in Texas, y'all. I've received gifted memberships when channel surfing on YouTube. It's amazing. I thought you had to be in the chat. Evidently not to get that. Okay. Oasis Cat. Do you happen to remember when Aiden talked about this last night? Oasis Cat's going to look for it. So, excuse me a second. Micah. Hi, Micah, with our cup. I think the jury has to feel that Hank is intentionally keeping things from them. On redirect, he asked jury if he asked about those taillight pieces on direct, and they asked when they were found. The case is so haphazard. I'm hoping that the jury doesn't feel like they hate Karen and they're getting the things that have been holding. That's haphazard the way it's gone in. And it's only gone in for one reason, to try to have the jury dislike Karen Reed and all, and not worry about anything that's been withheld or anything that may be funny. And so I just wonder, whether the jury is getting it, and they see the significance of it. Okay, so that's Joey Kane. The Fluffer Nutter is next. Check out the Bukaki one. That's from beginning. Last night, ducks fly. You guys are free to drop any of those 10 shorts. Okay, then check it out. I haven't had a chance. Okay. Did you see Bloody Toegate? No, I did not. Okay, sorry about that. As a cat, just jarring to me that he also asked him about the dates those were found, which makes me think they might put those two together. I just saw those big pieces. I'm like, wait, first of all, you supposedly missed them. When you see, even if you think Karen Reed's car has a small piece out of it from, I think, hitting the other car, it wasn't 2 7 or 8 inch long pieces that were 3.5 inches. I mean, it wasn't like this. It wasn't the whole taillight. Michael Bryan has the whole taillight. You know how big that is? Unbelievable. Okay. Unbelievable. Okay. Let's see. We've done the one with Brennan. Let's go back to some starred ones. You've got Kay Schmidt. Woo! Gifted 5 Justice Serve TV memberships. Kay just talking about. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I mean, I know people appreciate it. They get on, they get it, they say, oh my God, this is so great. Thank you so much. Tom Barnes, JSTV, question: can defense just read their Proctor, Higgins, Albert, McCabe, Alley previous trial testimony to the record in defense case in chief? Okay, this is a great question. The answer is no, except there may be an exception. The exception would be if they're unavailable by subpoena. You try to subpoena them, they're out of state, they won't accept it. Okay, all right. That's not the case here. Or they're going to take the Fifth Amendment. If they're going to take the Fifth Amendment, they then become technically unavailable under the law, but they'd have to come into court usually to put on the record through their attorney or through them without the jury being present, because you can't take the Fifth in front of the jury. Put that on the record, and then the defense will ask the court to say, look, they are unavailable and I want to read their testimony. They're unavailable under the law and I want to read the testimony. So the best thing actually for the defense to do would be to take for them to take the Fifth Amendment. And that's why I don't think Proctor is going to do it if he's subpoenaed. But it's a danger to the defense to call him, because then Hank Brennan can use him as a prosecution witness and say, I never did anything wrong. I never did anything wrong, you know? So maybe the way they're trying this case, it sounds like they want to leave Michael Proctor out there as the boogie person and all. But I do think they need to get in the fact that he was fired. I think they need to get that in for his work on this case. Now, do they do that by calling the hearing officer who fired him, or calling the custodian of records, calling the hearing officer that fired him and why he was fired? And then there, read the fact that it says lead investigator. I think that Alan can do that. I think that document actually should be a government document that should be allowed to come in under hearsay, but I know the judge is not going to allow that to happen. So that's the other way that we may see this happening. But unless they take the Fifth, and we've been told that Higgins won't testify under any circumstance, but does that mean he's going to take the Fifth if the defense calls it, because he wants to help the prosecution, right? And he wants to tell the world that he's not doing anything wrong. So I mean, the way Hank has tried this case has actually been brilliant in terms of doing this strategy to put the defense into the bind of having to call these witnesses or not. And it was brilliant also the way Alan Jackson was cross-examining Yuri Buchanan, getting to admit stuff that allowed him to get in some of these issues because he was his superior. But, it is not made it easy for the defense to get all this in. And Hank Brennan's done that purposely, knowing that Beverly Cannoni is going to enforce the rules the way she's going to enforce them. So that's where we are. All right. Okay. The Ruba case is not her, Karen. I agree. I agree with that. I don't think that gives a motive for murder, which is how they were using it the first time. A motive for murder, the Ruba case, right? Errol Glee, I love your content. Thank you so much. We really thank you for watching. Spread the word. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the share button and the notify button. Black Butterfly, $5 donation. Thank you so much. I'm going to show this right now. I just noticed that Higgins didn't have a beard in the bar. The video at the PD, the person on the phone did. Can you ask Turboy to get the information? I think Turboy's been asked to get the information. This has come up on social media last night about whether or not there was a beard in the bar, and it looks like there's a beard. It could be Brian Albert that's walking through the police station, not Higgins, although it was Higgins' pass key that shows that it was a code key that entered the police station. And then there's a question about whether the beanie was the one Albert's wearing, or the sweatshirt was the one Higgins is wearing. So all these questions came up, and I think Turtle Boy has been asked these questions. I don't see an answer on it. The question you have is, though, you want that call, right? You want that call from Higgins to Albert. And apparently the geolocation data puts Higgins' phone at the police station, is what I'm thinking. However, there is something going on, because Alan Jackson doesn't ask what we call stray questions. He asked a question, and I forget who it was, when he had the waterfall ball, and he had identified Higgins. Higgins is the one wearing this, and Albert's the one wearing this, right? But it was Higgins' sweatshirt, right? It was the one wearing this. And also he had them identified by what they were wearing. And he doesn't it could have been he's had them identified by what they're wearing so the jury could see them, but there was something about the question that suggests that there's more to it, that he may suggest, did somebody change clothes from the bar to afterwards that we don't know about? Did somebody change clothes? So it's a good pickup, Black Butterfly, and I know that Aidan Carney is on it, and I know the discrepancy and the questions that now come about the video. But if Albert went in, he was using the code key car from Higgins, so that's the issue. Okay. But definitely taking stuff out, right? Definitely taking stuff out. He had something in his hand when he left that office. Okay. Okay, let's see. Tom Barnes, Dizzy, could you put my question? I'm going to take your question, Tom. What does Linda think of the bloody toe of Higgins? I wasn't sure of the bloody toe of Higgins. Okay, was he bleeding? Maybe missing cocktail glass piece, duffel bag, first responder, med bag, no hospital, no record. I don't know about this bloody toe, Tom. It's something that I have missed that you're telling me about, and all. Because I thought the only damages that people saw that the defense used in the first trial was the knuckles on Chris Albert, and he's been ruled not to be, by the court, not to be anyone that the defense can point to as a third-party suspect because he wasn't there, supposedly. So and she's ruled that he wasn't there. So I can't answer your question, and I don't want to answer it with sounding like I'm the stupidest person in the world because I just missed it, okay? Was this testimony from yesterday and all? How did his shoes then get off? That's another issue, right? And then some people are suggesting that the shoes of Higgins or Albert were changed with the shoes of John O'Keefe. I don't have any answers for you there, okay? I don't have any answers for you there. So, Tom, sorry about that. I'm sorry that I can't help with that. I'll try to look into it more between tonight's show. Okay. Let's see what we have going here. We have a lot of your questions. Hold on a second. What Dizzy said, I see a lot of your questions. Some of these are getting, because I'm taking so long answering the questions, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm a little bit long-winded, okay, with regard to these questions. Okay, let me talk about this because I did see this. Jackson pointed out that black portfolio was Proctor holding at the Sally Port. It was the same bag at the hospital in the chair. Buchanan lied. He collected the clothes. Okay, yeah, I noticed that for the first time, Jackson did have somebody point out that black portfolio sitting, and then the same black portfolio at the Sally Port. And the issue is whether or not there was anything. I think the issue was going to be whether or not he put some glass pieces in that black portfolio when he went back that's the container, because people are wondering what happened. Oh no, so that's where we are with regard to that. We still want Lewin. Lewin, if Michael Bryan was here, he'd be putting the crybaby up. Lewin, crybaby, Lewin, crybaby emoji or thing that we have. All right, so let me go past. Let me go through. My gosh, we have a lot going on here. Sorry, I'm like an hour behind in questions, and I'm sorry I may be taking too long answering your questions here going on. Let me maybe scroll down to the new comments and maybe work some way back. Okay, so all right. So with regard to it was the video played. Yesterday was some of the day I was out and I didn't see some of the Canton PD under calls yesterday. So thank you, Dizzy. Thank you. Okay. See, hold on. Oasis, can Alan Jackson asked Jury what Higgins was wearing in the Canton PD video played as well. So yeah, that's what I think, because we didn't have that the first trial, right? We didn't have the container. We didn't have the, this is my iPad. So, but we didn't have the black portfolio on the first trial that Alan pointed in on, and we didn't have the clothes issue that Alan has clearly been pointing on. So yes. There is my guess is there's more to it also, right? I think there's all more to it also. Because again, he doesn't ask stray questions, all right? He has questions for a purpose. And let me tell you, when we try a case, the way we teach it is that, and there may be other things that people want to know, but every single thing that you ask goes to the theme of your case, right? You don't ask one question, whether it be a direct or cross-examination, that doesn't help the theme of your case, okay? That's why I say to you, there are no stray questions, because Alan, having spent 6 months trying a case with him, tries a case the way I do. There are no stray questions. Now, he asks, interestingly enough, he has a lot of more open-ended questions, and I think he did that because he knew what the answers were going to be, and he knew, and he doesn't, he had, because he was cross-examining for so long, he had to have a rotation, and being at you and being not at you, being at you and being not at you, because the jury gets tired if you're at you all the time. They tune out. So that, it's an ebb and a flow. It's just, again, it's like a Broadway play. You're going to have some dialogue, then you're going to have the blockbuster song. You have some dialogue and then the blockbuster song, right? There's an ebb and a flow to trying the case. Okay. Maiden, Madeira Beach caregiver. Can't wait for Butterfly. Can't wait for Michael Dott's frame-by-frame analysis of the entire parking lot video. There was a lot going on there. There was an absolute lot going on there. I agree with you. Olivia Nope, question: how hard would it be for the defense to change strategy if they have call Higgins and Proctor as their own witnesses? I think I discussed this a little bit. I'm not in favor necessarily of them doing that, although sometimes there's something you need. If there's something you really need from them and you limit your direct just to that, if you just limit your direct just to that, then maybe you can limit the cross. But I don't trust Judge Beverly Cannoni to have the cross limited when the defense is trying to limit their direct and not have it broken up, things broken up in the cross. She did it for the prosecution, but I don't know. Okay. Yes, I know I've gone over questions multiple times. Okay. Yeah. I'm taking a look at some of my notes here. Hold on a second. Just bear with me. Okay, hold on. Okay, yeah, I know that some of you have come in late, and I know there's 300 of you, so I want to see. I think I have answered. I'm looking at all of your questions. I think I've answered them all, and if not, this is going to be up on our Justice TV website. So now that we're coming into noon, all right, is there anything else that any of you have that you really want to know right now? If not, I'm going to break for lunch. We will monitor what happens today. We'll try to get our sources out there working to try to see if we have some more answers to you. I am to post this because I have to post two things before I go. Mara, I like the Justice TV serve mugs. Got mine the other day. Yeah, they're really cool, right? Yeah, I've got it right here. I mean, they're really cool. I like them because they're microwave and dishwasher safe. I don't like to buy anything that's not dishwasher approved. And usually it goes in the dishwasher and gets ruined if it's not. And Dizzy, I just want to point this out because Riz said it was weird to me that he has hood up inside. I thought that was kind of strange too, that he has hood up inside too. So those are the only two comments that before I go, I'm going to say, let's break for lunch. Let's all have a nice lunch. I thank all of you for all your generous donations, for being with Justice Serve TV and making us, putting us on the map. We'll see what we can find out. I want you to, before you go, just give you a chance, hit the like button, the share button, the subscribe button, and the notify button. And then we will see you all at 6 p.m. tonight. You'll get notified if you hit the notify button, and we'll be on from 6 to 7:25. We're going to go through a bunch of Higgins's testimony. Again, we have reached out to Erica, not Eliza. What did I say Eliza for? I mean, you know why I said Eliza? Because I'm thinking of the daughter of a client of mine just now that I have to do some work on. Oh, I'm so Erica for the buffer zone incident. I'd like to reach out to Rich on microdots, and I can't wait to see what microdots has with regard to the zone. And we will definitely be on it. So again, 6 o'clock tonight, I'm Linda Kenny Bodden. I'm going to do Michael Bryant's tagline since he's not here. Try to do the right thing, and we will see you later on.